Chapter 2954 Stand out from the crowd. Get out of the way. Just as Yang Kai was observing the surroundings silently, there was an extremely rude shout from behind him. He turned his head and saw a large group of people suddenly appearing on the huge space magic circle, more than a dozen in number. All of them have extraordinary cultivation. One of the men was the most conspicuous. He looked to be in his early 20s. He was handsome and arrogant, with a pair of red phoenix eyes containing a high majesty, and he was wearing a moon-white cloak. The rest of the crowd scattered around, surrounding him like stars surrounding the moon. As soon as this group of people appeared, they walked in a certain direction, while the leading warrior cleared the way ahead, rudely pushing and shoving those who stood in the way. The person being pushed did not dare to resist at all, but ran aside tremblingly. "It's His Highness the Third Prince, His Royal Highness is back. Quickly kneel down and don't talk, and don't look at him, it's over if he stares at him." The crowd clattered for a while, and they all knelt down on the ground, regardless of men, women, young or old, or high or low strength. People within a radius of 100 feet from the teleportation circle is the center, no matter what they were doing, all prostrated themselves on the ground, expressing respectfully. Yang Kai was dumbfounded. He was looking at the so-called third prince curiously, listening to those whispers about him, wondering what the prince was. Because titles like this seem to only be possessed by those kingdoms in the secular world. He has basically never heard such a title in the group of warriors. Everyone around was kneeling, only he and Zhu Qing stood in place, and Zhu Qing was holding a little black dog in her arms. All of a sudden it looked very unconventional. He sighed slightly, knowing that something bad was going to happen, and he was not very willing to cause trouble until he fully understood the situation of this wheel world and human emperor city. But things in life are unsatisfactory most of the time, so he doesn't want to cause trouble. "Please stick to it yourself." He glanced at Zhu Qing helplessly, and Zhu Qing had a smile in the corner of her eyes. Okay. The abnormality of Yang Kai and Zhu Qing caught the attention of that group of people in an instant. The leading martial artist came to Yang Kai in a few steps. This guy was tall, like an iron tower, giving people a strong sense of oppression. He looked down at Yang Kai and shouted, "Boy, seeing Your Highness the Third Prince, why don't you kneel?" During the conversation, an extremely strong coercion emanated from this person's body, and suddenly pressed towards Yang Kai. He has the cultivation base of the first level of Emperor Senior, and he seems to have been in battle for a long time, so this Emperor prestige has a strong bloody aura, and ordinary people will be frightened immediately when they touch it, and most of their resistance will disappear first. Yang Kai was indifferent, still standing there, as if there was only a gust of wind blowing his face, only making his hair fly. He looked at the strong man and said, "The country people have never seen anything in the world. They don't know much about etiquette. My lord, don't blame us, let's go now." While speaking, he wanted to leave with Zhu Qing. It doesn't matter if it's the third prince or several princes. It is absolutely impossible for him to kneel down, and it is even more impossible for Zhu Qing to kneel down to Immortal even if he is a dignified dragon, so it is better to go first to avoid more troubles. It's a pity that he didn't get what he wanted. Seeing that Yang Kai was about to leave, the strong man stared and shouted, "Presumptuous." Like a mad bull, the big palm like a cattail fan patted Yang Kai all at once. Pat directly on his shoulder. With a loud bang, Yang Kai's figure was as stable as Mount Tai. However, the violent power spread from his body to his feet, causing the stone slabs on the ground to shatter. Yang Kai rolled his eyelids, glanced at the strong man, and said lazily, "What do you mean, my lord?" Only then did the strong man show a surprised expression, and said with a sneer, "No wonder you are so arrogant. It turns out that you have some skills, but it's a pity you met me." While speaking, the strength in his hands suddenly became more violent, and the veins on his thick neck were piled up. All the strength in his body was used up, and he was about to overwhelm Yang Kai to the ground. Yang Kai glanced at the others, and saw that the rest of the guards looked at him coldly, as if they felt that he had committed some taboo and must be punished. On the contrary, the third prince, with a cold expression on his face, didn't pay much attention to him, but when he saw Zhu Qing, a look of surprise flashed in his eyes, but that was all, and he didn't pay any more attention. His gaze crossed the crowd in the half-human imperial city, staring at a certain place, shining with fiery light. He is still standing here. He should just wait for his subordinates to teach Yang Kai a lesson, so that the residents of the imperial city will know the price of offending him, and understand the dignity. The brawny man was still putting pressure on Yang Kai. At the beginning, he had a winning expression on his face, because he also noticed that Yang Kai only had a cultivation level of Emperor Senior, and with the same cultivation level, he was not afraid of any opponent, not to mention the inexplicable kid in front of him. But with the passage of time and the surge of his Emperor Yuan, his face gradually became ugly, because no matter how he pushed the power, he couldn't shake the kid in front of him. He seemed to be rooted on the ground, even no sign of shaking. After a while, the strong man was already blushing and had a thick neck. His tower-like body actually trembled, obviously a little bit weak, but he was a little bit hard to get off, so he could only hold on by himself. He greatly underestimated his opponent. Yang Kai's face darkened slightly. He stared at the third prince over the strong man and said, "It is a virtue to accept it when you see it." The third prince turned a deaf ear, still staring at a certain part of human imperial city, as if his whole mind was immersed in it, and he could no longer perceive anything outside. Yang Kai snorted softly, raised his palm and patted the strong man. He had already secretly warned the third prince that since the other party didn't take it seriously, then he didn't need to care about other people's faces. As for the consequences of being slapped in the face, he didn't care so much. Let's talk about it first when he feels comfortable. Things happened in a hurry. The strong man didn't expect Yang Kai to fight back at all. It was too late to think about defending when the palm came over, not to mention that he was all focused on how to suppress Yang Kai just now. How could he gather together the power of defense? The fluffy palm looked harmless, but it made the strong man's face change drastically, and he flew up high like a kite and landed heavily on the ground. Everyone was shocked. Those kneeling on the ground raised their eyes secretly to wait and see. After seeing this scene, they immediately let out a sound of exclamation. It was obvious that they were not expecting this scene. In this human imperial city, there are still people who dare to clash with the guards of the third prince, and it is under the premise that the third prince is present. This person probably has a broken head to do such a stupid thing. The poor beautiful woman next to him will also suffer. I don't know what will happen. And although the guards of the third prince were shocked by Yang Kai's counterattack, they reacted extremely quickly. Without saying a word, they rushed forward one after another, and surrounded Yang Kai and Zhu Qing in an instant. Among these guards, there is a second-level Emperor Senior, two first-level Emperor Senior, and the rest are all third-level Daoyuan. All of them have strong foundations, and it is not surprising to break through at any time. Although Yang Kai has not been here for a long time, the quantity and quality of Emperor Senior stage in this person's imperial city still surprised him, and he doesn't know how the warriors here practice. Emperor Senior stage here seems to be very common. Such a lineup can be considered luxurious as a guard, especially on the premise that the third prince himself is also at the first level of Emperor Senior. Many strong men surrounded but did not attack. They were just waiting for the order of the third prince. As long as the third prince said a word of killing, they would immediately pounce on Yang Kai and Zhu Qing to pieces, no matter how strong the two were. Provoking the prince in human imperial city, the end will not be so good. Surrounded by people like this, Yang Kai remained calm, with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. Zhu Qing also bent down and put down the little black dog, standing beside Yang Kai quietly. "Did you just come from outside?" The third prince suddenly withdrew his gaze, looked at Yang Kai and asked. "Is it obvious?" Yang Kai frowned, a little surprised that this guy actually asked this. The third prince said indifferently, "If you stay here for a while longer, you will understand that it is not wise to clash with the prince in human emperor city." Yang Kai grinned and said, "So that's the case, the third prince really has eyes like a torch. Yes, my husband and I have just come from outside." The third prince nodded lightly, and said, "There are rules outside, there are rules here, let's forget it this time. Next time I hope you can do as the Romans do." After finishing speaking, he took a deep look at Yang Kai, and went straight from he walked by. The guards who gathered around Yang Kai and Zhu Qing heard what their master said, but they didn't mean to embarrass them anymore. They immediately turned their heads to follow. Even the strong man who was beaten by Yang Kai before passed by the two of them. Without squinting, it seems that he has never touched Yang Kai at all. By the way, the third prince, who had walked more than a dozen steps, suddenly stopped and said without turning his head, "Let me let you know that I let you go not because you showed enough strength, but because you committed the crime for the first time. A chance for you to turn over a new leaf, eh?" Yang Kai frowned slightly, and squirmed at Zhu Qing's mouth. Although there was no sound and no sound transmission, Zhu Qing still understood what Yang Kai said. This guy is really stinky. Zhu Qing covered her mouth and smiled delicately. "Pa!" The third prince snapped his fingers seemingly casually. Yang Kai's face changed abruptly, and he suddenly let out a muffled snort. Zhu Qing's face paled, she stared nervously at Yang Kai and said, "You're bleeding." While speaking, he hurriedly took out a silk scarf from his space ring and placed it under Yang Kai's nostrils. Yang Kai reached out to take the silk scarf, covered his nose, and looked at the third prince who was drifting away in disbelief. "Why do you bleed?" Zhu Qingdai frowned, she couldn't figure it out. She saw the conflict just now from the beginning to the end, and she didn't find any trace of Yang Kai's injury, but Yang Kai still had a nosebleed, which was obvious. "It's not normal. Let's find a place to talk." Yang Kai looked dignified, and pulled Zhu Qing to the distance. The surrounding residents of the imperial city slowly got up, and they all avoided the two sides, like avoiding snakes and scorpions. To be continued. Chapter 2955 Dog Problem. In a tea house, the fine tea was being steamed, exuding a unique fragrance of tea. Yang Kai and Zhu Qing were sitting opposite each other, and the little black dog was lying on the corner of the tea table, closing his eyes and falling asleep. "What happened just now?" Zhu Qing asked in a low voice. Until now she hadn't figured out why Yang Kai was injured. Although the injury was not serious, it was bleeding after all. If it is said that the hands and feet of the third prince are somewhat improbable, she knows how strong Yang Kai is. How can he be hurt by a mere emperor senior level? And it was just a snap of the fingers. If the third prince really has this ability, he might not be far from the emperor. This person's imperial city is not simple. Yang Kai let go of the silk scarf covering his nostrils. The blood stopped, but the silk scarf was a mess. He put it away casually. Zhu Qing was startled and said, "Did the third prince really hurt you?" "Yes." Yang Kai nodded. "How is this possible?" Zhu Qing's complexion changed slightly. Could it be that he's hiding his own strength? Her heart was shaken. She couldn't see through what kind of strong man hides his strength. If there is such a person, his strength is inevitable. It's also a little too scary. No and no. Yang Kai shook his head. That guy didn't hide his strength is at the Emperor Senior stage. Then how could it be? Zhu Qing's yin lips parted slightly. How should I put it? Yang Kai frowned and recalled the scene he just experienced, and said after a long time, "There is an extremely strong force in human Emperor City, and the third prince seems to be able to drive this force at will to hurt me. It's not the third prince, but the omnipresent power." Although the words are a bit awkward, but the meaning is very concise, Zhu Qing naturally will not understand. She said in a daze, "What kind of power is that?" "I can't tell." Yang Kai shook his head. "Do you still remember that woman reminded us not to provoke people with leaves on their chests?" Zhu Qing patted the table lightly and said, "The third prince seems to have a leaf logo on his clothes." Yang Kai grinned. "And it's the 9-leaf symbol." He pointed to the sky and said, "You may not have noticed that the guys flying around that day have leaf symbols on their chests, but the number is not large." "Same." Hearing what he said, Zhu Qing quickly released her divine sense to investigate, and found that it was indeed the case. No matter the strength of the people flying around in the sky, none of them were ordinary people, and all of them were embroidered with the leaf logo on their chests. These people probably have a very special status in human Emperor City. Yang Kai tapped his fingers on the table. "There are emperors here, there are princes. I guess those guys with leaves on their chests must be relatives of the emperor. That's why they are all relatives. There are some privileges." Zhu Qing frowned and said, "There are too many royal relatives and relatives." Yang Kai smiled and said, "So most of those guys are just a symbol of 1 leaf and 2 leaves, and it is rare to see more than 5 leaves, like the third prince, who has 9 leaves, and it seems that he is also a powerful figure." Zhu Qing said, "I remembered, Guanxi Liao in the cave before, seemed to have a sign like that on his chest." "That's right." Yang Kai nodded. "That's why he can control the space magic circle over there, and he has the master seal of the human emperor. Even if the husband and wife are stronger than him, they have to swallow their anger. Tisk, privilege is good what? What are you thinking?" Zhu Qing looked at him coldly. Yang Kai said seriously, "I mean, only these royal relatives can mobilize the mysterious power in the city, and can easily defeat the strong with the weak. Of course, not every royal relative has such ability. There may be some restrictions. For example, only those with 5 or 6 leaves have such qualifications. The more leaves there are, the stronger the power that can be mobilized." "Well, what you said seems to make sense." Zhu Qing didn't think about it, but felt that there was nothing wrong with what Yang Kai said. Yang Kai sneered. In the final analysis, the weak are still the strong, it's just that some people here can rely on a special power, and this kind of power seems to be everywhere in Human Emperor City. Can we resist? Zhu Qing asked. Yang Kai shook his head. I don't know. The third prince didn't do his best just now, and I wasn't prepared, so if it really broke my face, I don't know if I can resist it. The most important thing now is to understand that what the hell is power, you can prescribe the right medicine. Then let's find someone to inquire about it. Zhu Qing suggested. Yang Kai smiled and shook his head, no need. Why? Because someone came to your door, little fool. Yang Kai smiled at her. Zhu Qing said angrily, you are the little fool. Yang Kai's words reminded her that since entering Human Imperial City, her IQ seems to be not enough. Thinking about the reason carefully, it seems to be because she felt that she had a support, so both her judgment and observation skills plummeted, which made her feel a little uncomfortable, but she didn't reject this feeling. My lord, since you're here, why don't you come and sit together, so why bother if you don't have anyone to talk to? Yang Kai suddenly turned his head and looked at a table not far away. There was only one guest at that table, who looked about 50, with a goatee and a refined manner. At first glance, he looked like a teacher. He was restrained and had an ethereal aura. This guy entered the tea house with Yang Kai. Hearing Yang Kai's words, the goatee didn't hesitate to stand up and sit down directly, not looking at Yang Kai or Zhu Qing, instead he was interested in the little black dog crawling on the table and dozing off. The fragrance of tea was overflowing. Yang Kai picked up the teapot and filled him a cup, and said, "What's your name, mister?" The goatee picked up the teacup, drank it down without fear of the scalding, and said flatly, "A good dog." Yang Kai smiled and said, "It's just a little dog, what's so good about it?" Mr. praised it. The little black dog doesn't have any particularly conspicuous features. On the premise that it doesn't reveal Guishu's blood, outsiders won't notice any abnormalities at all. Goatee shook his head and said, "I didn't mean it." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said, "If you don't talk about it, then you are talking about me." The goatee stretched out his hand to stroke his beard, and said flatly, "Young children can be taught." Zhu Qing's face turned violent, and she immediately wanted to take action to teach this unrestrained old man a lesson. The old man didn't know what to say, but actually insulted his man in front of her face. How could Zhu Qing tolerate it? Yang Kai gave her a wink, told her to be calm, and said with a smile, "Sir, it's really interesting, I'm a human, how can I be compared with a dog?" Goatee said, "Sometimes people are not as good as dogs. Being a human has its disadvantages, but being a dog has its advantages." Yang Kai sneered softly, "Then dare to ask which family's dog is it, sir?" "The third prince's family." The goatee's face was slightly cold, but he didn't have an attack. He nodded and said, "There's nothing wrong with you saying that." Yang Kai Dao. I often hear people say that a dog that bites does not bark, and a dog that barks is trash. From this point of view, Mr. is also a good dog. Zhu Qing snorted softly, "Don't compare him with Ah Wang is much better than him." She seized every opportunity to vent her anger, reached out and hugged the little black dog back, and gently combed its hair. Goatee said, "Whether it is a good dog is not up to me, but the decision of His Royal Highness the Third Prince. He thinks you are, he thinks you are not, no matter how strong you are still a dead dog." Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and said, "Then sir, is he here to beat dogs and eat meat, or do he think otherwise?" The goatee pushed the teacup in front of Yang Kai, motioned him to fill it up, and said lightly, "Dog meat is not good, and the third prince is not that interested." Yang Kai snorted and said, "That is to collect hunting dogs. Whether it's a hound or a domestic animal, it depends on your performance." The goatee picked up the teacup again, put it to his lips and took a sip, and said, "Outsiders are extremely rare. The third prince thinks you are not bad, so he is willing to give you this opportunity. Whether you can seize this opportunity depends on the you did it yourself." Yang Kai laughed loudly and shook his head constantly. "I'm really sorry, sir has lofty ambitions, and I wish to be someone's family dog. AA is my freedom. I don't think the same way as sir. We, husband and wife, don't intend to show anything, we just follow the dog. I have no interest in being a dog." The goatee put down his teacup, his expression remained still, as if he had expected it long ago. He nodded and said, "I have heard about some things outside, and I know the situation outside. Maybe you used to be a powerful party, calling the wind and rain, but this is the imperial city of people. Your own rules, outsiders like you always have to suffer a little to understand the rules of human imperial city. While speaking, he stood up, dropped a wooden token casually, and said, "This is the third prince's token. If you can escape this catastrophe, you are qualified to be the third prince's hunting dog. If not, that means you are nothing more than that." When the words fell, he floated away. At the same time, more than a dozen figures rushing from all directions, surrounded by clothes and clothes, surrounded the tea house tightly. Seeing this, other guests in the tea house were shocked and fled in all directions. The tea house owner looked seeing this sudden scene. She had an expression of wanting to cry, but she didn't dare to attack at will. Because he recognized the identities of the people. Yang Kai rubbed his head and said with a headache, "Give a candied data mallet, what do you mean?" Zhu Qing watched the surroundings with cold eyes, and said, "It seems that they are not from the same way." Yang Kai suddenly said, "There are 3 princes, so there must be the eldest prince and the second prince. I don't know which route this is. From this point of view, they are not monolithic." The voices of the two did not cover up, and the warriors gathered around the tea house could hear it clearly, but they were all indifferent. No one stood up to explain to Yang Kai, but seemed to be waiting for someone. They were indeed waiting for someone. After a short while, there was another burst of sound on the street, and then a huge bed sedan came from one end of the street. The people who carried the sedan chair were all Daoyuan realm warriors, and the wind was blowing under their feet. The body does not move, and the sedan chair runs smoothly. Recommend a new book, The Immortals of the New 6 Realms, a strong man who walked out of the wasteland of the dead. ISBN 1432489. Opening parenthesis. Closing parenthesis. Chapter 2956. If you come, hit it. The sedan chair was extremely luxurious, and it was dressed in translucent pink curtains, giving people a hazy sense of luxury. There are people in the sedan chair, a man and 2 women, both reclining on the sedan chair, with delicious wine and fresh fruit on the couch. The man embraces on the left and right, sips a small wine, eats a spiritual fruit, and looks refreshed. The 2 women wear very little. A large piece of snow-white skin was exposed, arching back and forth in his arms, making coquettish voices constantly, secretly competing for the wind and jealousy. The man acted like no one was there. His 2 big hands groped and ravaged the delicate bodies of the 2 women wantonly, making them gasp from time to time. The people along the way knelt down one after another, not daring to raise their heads, not to mention the infinitely beautiful spring scenery in the sedan chair. Only the sweet voice of a woman came to their ears, making people's stomachs burn like fire. In the blink of an eye, the sedan chair came to the front of the tea house. Before the sedan chair fell off, the bearers of the Tao origin realm straightened up and stood there. The surrounding area was quiet, and the muffled sounds in the sedan chair became more and more abrupt. Yang Kai stared, watching with relish. Zhu Qing's face was reddish, and she snorted coldly, and when she found Yang Kai's appearance of giving soul and soul, she couldn't help kicking him from under the table, staring and saying, "What do you look at?" And then look at the eyes. They all fell out. Yang Kai grinned and said to her, "Qinger, you look so jealous." "Nonsense." Zhu Qing blushed even more. Who is jealous?" The two were flirting and cursing as if no one was around, causing all the warriors around to stare coldly. A bald man walked into the tea house. He looked like a pawn. The breath is deep and long. He stared at Yang Kai and Zhu Qing coldly, and shouted, "The eldest prince is here, why don't you kneel down? It's really a prince." Yang Kai and Zhu Qing looked at each other. He just said casually just now, but he didn't expect that the person who came was really another prince. He and Zhu Qing came to human imperial city within a short time. That is, there was a little conflict with the third prince's people at the space magic circle. Unexpectedly, after a short time, another eldest prince appeared. Although the third prince taught him a lesson, he sent someone over later, no doubt wanting to subdue him as his subordinate. I just don't know what the eldest prince is planning when he comes here. But Yang Kai looked at the eldest prince's posture of hugging left and right, and had some vague guesses. He felt a little uncomfortable, and his tone became very bad. I'm sorry, I don't have the habit of kneeling. If you have something to say, get out if you have nothing to do. Quote. The bald man was furious when he heard the words, and shouted, presumptuous. When the words fell, he raised his hand and was about to make a move, but a soft voice came from the bed sedan. Stop, you're going to beat me up, what if you hurt the beauty? When the bald man heard the words, he stopped immediately, but he gave Yang Kai a hard look. The voice in the sedan chair said, Beauty, let's get acquainted. I am Fu Shu, the eldest prince of the imperial city. Are you interested in going out with me? Zhu Qing didn't answer, but the two women nestled in Fu Shu's arms were not happy. One of them climbed onto Fu Shu, took a sip of wine in his mouth, and said coquettishly, "The eldest prince is necrotic, and our sisters are not enough to serve him. It's really annoying to find someone else, eh?" Another woman also said coquettishly, "Yes, the eldest prince, what's so good about this woman's cold face? How can it be like our sisters who are understanding and dedicated to serving others? The eldest prince don't pay attention to her, I don't know where she came from. The country girl who came here, let's go back to the palace, my sister and I came up with a good idea recently, and it will definitely satisfy you, first prince." The eldest prince swallowed the fine wine, feeling light all over his body. He squeezed the soft and delicate bodies of the two girls around him with his two big hands, and moaned softly. He laughed and said, "It's true that you two are good, but she's not bad at all, this prince just accepted her as your sister." No, we have enough sisters, you can't take any more, first prince." "That's right, I can hardly count those sisters, and the eldest prince, you just promised my slave a few days ago that you would never be a prostitute again. How come you have to go back on your word in just a few days?" They don't agree. The eldest prince laughed dryly and said, Yes, this prince said that before, but at that time, there was no such beauty. I will accept another one, and finally another one, and I will definitely not accept it in the future. The eldest prince is lying, and people don't believe you. No, eldest prince, this woman is nothing special, oh, she has red hair, if the eldest prince likes it, we sisters can also make red hair red, and shake it in front of you every day, so you can see it. Enough. What's the matter? Fu Shu kept shaking his head, and said, "You don't know, although this beauty looks nothing special, but I heard that she came from the outside world. This prince has seen countless women, and this is the first time he has met outsiders. Ida's coming, so naturally you can't let it go easily, eh? Did she come from outside? That's so strange, women, aren't they all the same, eldest prince, you?" "Okay, shut up." Fu Shu's tone suddenly turned cold, and the two girls who were acting coquettishly fell silent. They knew their identities and their status in the eyes of the eldest prince, but they were just playthings. It doesn't matter to act like a baby from time to time in order to be loved, but if you insist on preventing the eldest prince from having fun, you will definitely fall out of favor in an instant. There are countless beauties in the eldest prince's residence, and it's not that they have to wait around. So as soon as they noticed that the eldest prince's tone was wrong, the two girls didn't dare to disobey her immediately, and the first girl immediately changed her words. "Since the eldest prince likes her so much, then let's accept her, there is one more sister on the left and right, as long as the eldest prince is happy, whatever is fine. What my sister said is, I think this woman looks good, and she is barely qualified to serve the first prince." Fu Shu suddenly smiled, and kissed the two women's cheeks, one left and one right, and laughed loudly, "You two are the most reasonable, my prince didn't love you for nothing." The two delicate bodies were arched back and forth in the arms of the eldest prince, and the woman who spoke first said, "But this beauty seems to have her own heart, what are you going to do, eldest prince?" Fu Shu said with a smile, "That's because she doesn't know how powerful this prince is. After having tasted the tricks of this prince, how can she miss other men? When you see clearly, this prince is going to demote her." In the meantime, she broke free from her two delicate bodies, straightened her messy clothes, stood up from the sedan chair, lifted the curtains, walked down in one step, and after entering the tea house, raised her eyes to look at Zhu Qing. This look immediately elated. "I didn't see it clearly in the curtain just now, but now I saw this red-haired woman who was so beautiful." Although her expression was a little colder, she was more and more able to provoke men's desire to conquer. As he said before, he really hasn't tried foreign beauties. It's not that he doesn't have enough power, it's because no outsiders have entered human imperial city for many years. He is the eldest prince, under one person and above 10,000 people in human imperial city. If he wants any beauty, someone will arrange it for him as soon as he gives an order, and none of those women dare to resist, all of them try their best to please and cater to. I am used to delicious food, and it is a kind of happiness to change the taste occasionally. So the colder Zhu Qing's expression is, the more he likes it. Deep in his heart, he is eager to move, wishing to bring this red-haired beauty back to the palace to love her carefully. That fiery gaze bit Zhu Qing's face like a leech, and moved recklessly, wanting to look up and down. Yang Kai flickered and stood in front of Zhu Qing. The eldest prince's expression changed immediately, as if seeing a lump of stinky meat. He said with disgust, "What's your name?" Without waiting for Yang Kai to answer, Fu Shu said, "No matter what your name is, if you want to survive, then go away. I think you have contributed to your beauty, and this prince can give you a leaf." As soon as this remark came out, all the warriors around looked fiery. The body of a leaf, although it is the body of the lowest rank of dignitaries, it is still a dignitary. It can enjoy privileges that ordinary people cannot get in the imperial city, and it can instantly separate it from ordinary people. These people have followed the first prince for many years, but none of them have received similar rewards. They never thought that this outsider would have such an honor just because he had a beautiful woman by his side. Good luck. The bald man took a step forward and shouted at Yang Kai angrily, "If you don't thank me and retreat, you won't die if you want to die." Yang Kai sighed dejectedly, looked at the first prince earnestly and said, Your Highness, the first prince, has a deep relationship with the humble, and is not willing to separate, and I have no intention of showing beauty. Your Highness, the first prince, is so powerful. There are countless beauties around me. I think the two in the sedan chair are pretty good. Why bother staring at a married woman? Spreading the word will damage His Highness's reputation. Why don't we just say goodbye and see you again if we have a chance? Fu Shu said coldly, "Are you insulting my IQ, or your own?" The corner of Yang Kai's mouth twitched, feeling that his proposal was too naive. Fu Shu said, "I don't want to bully others, so how about it? You think the two in the sedan chair are good, so I will give you both, and I want the one behind you." As soon as these words came out, the two women in the sedan chair became extremely stiff as if they had been struck by lightning, but they didn't dare to say anything. They looked miserable and weeping at each other. Yang Kai said in surprise, "Isn't this, the eldest prince losing money?" Fu Shu snorted, "I have a lot of lords, so why not let you take advantage?" Yang Kai Dao, "But I'm not interested in taking advantage of others, I just need to be with the cheap." Fu Shu waved his hand and said impatiently, "Then it is a reward, and there is no need to thank you." Yang Kai opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. Zhu Qing said from behind, "People are staring at me, what are you going to do?" Yang Kai grinned, showing a bright smile, "What else can I do? If it comes, hit it." Please pay attention to Momo V letter. Search for Momo or Mo Benzun to add, get the latest information about martial arts and the author's dynamics. Chapter 2957 Blessed by the Holy Tree, the royal family is not injured. A Daoyuan third-level realm dares to be presumptuous in front of this young master. Yang Kai raised his hand and patted that Fu Shu when he sneered, mercilessly. He figured it out. Although the imperial city was safe and would not be disturbed by changes in the laws of the outside world, it was actually a mess. If he and Zhu Qing, two outsiders, want to establish a foothold here, they must show extraordinary force, so that people know that they are not easy to bully. The principle of the law of the jungle will not change anywhere. If it changes, it means that it is not strong enough. Fu Shu's strength is not high, only Daoyuan third level, but Yang Kai's eyesight is so sharp. He has long seen that this guy's cultivation base is exaggerated. It should be some kind of panacea or a genius emperor treasures cultivation base that was hardened to improve. It is impossible to show the strength that it should have, not to mention the appearance of the eldest prince who is addicted to wine and sex. I am afraid that he has already been hollowed out. Such a guy, Yang Kai can kill dozens or hundreds of them casually. However, Fu Shu didn't have the slightest self-knowledge, and he was only 3 feet away from Yang Kai at this time. How could he have any time to react to this shot? The Emperor Yuan surged, the aura of heaven and earth was turbulent, and a huge palm print visible to the naked eye slapped Fu Shu on the head. The bald man's expression changed drastically, and he yelled, "Stop! Hold your mother's hand!" Yang Kai cursed, his hands kept moving, becoming more and more violent. Fu Shu really didn't react. He probed his head and wanted to see the figure of the beauty hiding behind Yang Kai. Until the palm print was on his body, he suddenly screamed. His whole body was stiff and trembling, completely unsure what to do. Seeing that this palm was about to smash Fu Shu into powder, a hazy green light suddenly emerged from his body surface, suddenly forming a layer of protection, covering Fu Shu completely. Boom-a. The protection was broken, and Fu Shu's hair fluttered. He was in a mess, but he was unscathed. What the hell? Yang Kai was dumbfounded. He didn't see any trace of Fu Shu casting a spell at that moment. But that shield appeared so strangely. Looking at it up and down, it doesn't look like it is wearing a secret treasure. On the contrary, there are many useless pendants worn, which can only be used for decoration. One move failed, and the bald man had already come out from the side. With a flash of light in his hand, a sledgehammer suddenly appeared. The sledgehammer was half the size of a tabletop, with dazzling lights shining on it, giving people an extremely dangerous feeling. The bald man yelled angrily, "How dare you be rude to the eldest prince? The boy will die." His muscles piled up all over his body, and he held a sledgehammer in one hand. With all his strength, he slammed down on Yang Kai's head. "Escort, escort," Yang Kai shouted. Zhu Qing glared at him, and when her red hair was flying, her petite body stood beside Yang Kai in a flash, and then raised a pink and white fist. He greeted the sledgehammer. The bald man's complexion changed again, and he sternly shouted, "Go away." He didn't know why the red-haired woman wanted to kill herself, but he knew the power of his blow. This woman's cultivation seems to be a bit good, but after all, she is only a delicate and frail woman. If she is really hit by herself, she will not die but will be seriously injured. This is the woman that the eldest prince has his eyes on. How could he dare to do anything cruel? He used all his strength before, but now it was too late even if he wanted to withdraw the move. Seeing that Zhu Qing was blocking the front, he could only forcefully turn around and shift the sledgehammer in his hand a little bit, hoping to let the woman escape. Zhu Qing's fist hit the sledgehammer. The powder fist and the huge hammer formed a very strong visual impact, and no one would doubt that Zhu Qing's end would be extremely tragic. The results were surprising. There was only a loud bang. Zhu Qing didn't move, her hair was blown by the strong wind like a group of demons dancing wildly. The bald man with a sledgehammer stared at his eyes, as if struck by lightning, and after a slight pause, he was struck flying like lightning. Rumbling, the wall of the tea house and the building next door were smashed into a row of holes. At the end of the field of vision, there was a lot of dust, and the bald man fell into the ruins, motionless. The eyeballs of a group of people almost popped out, especially those guards who came with the first prince. They all looked at Zhu Qing dumbfounded. They never thought that this seemingly soft and boneless petite body could burst out with that kind of expression. The power to destroy heaven and earth. This is even more unimaginable than seeing a demon race alive and kicking in human emperor city. Zhu Qing shook her hand with a look of disdain. Outside the tea house, the two seductive women on the bed let out a terrified scream. How long has the imperial city been peaceful? No one has ever dared to cause trouble in the city, let alone a conflict with the prince. Seeing such a big scene suddenly, the two women were naturally terrified, their faces were pale, and their delicate bodies were trembling. The scream awakened the talisman of desperation. He was stunned for a long time before he came to his senses, gritted his teeth and asked Yang Kai, "You hit me?" His tone became more severe, and he became a little hysterical. "How dare you hit me? My prince. It's you who hit you, come here." Yang Kai stretched out his hand and grasped it in the void, grabbed the million sword, and slashed down at the Fu Shu. Fu Shu was so frightened that he screamed and ran away with his head in his arms. Millions of swords are like maggots on the tarsus bone, chasing after them. One after another sword light slashed on Fu Shu's body, but did not cause any harm to him. Whenever the sword light hits Fu Shu's body surface, the dim green light blocked the attack. If Yang Kai is strong, it will be strong. If Yang Kai is weak, it will be weak. It seems to have spirituality. No matter what, it must protect the safety of the first prince Fu Shu. As strong as Yang Kai, he couldn't break through the protection of this green light. He was amazed for a while. The world is really big and full of wonders. If he hadn't accidentally come to this wheel world and entered the human emperor city, he might not have known such things in this world. "Help! Help!" the eldest prince yelled as he fled. How can he have the majesty of a prince? At this moment he is just an ordinary person who is exhausted and has even forgotten that he has practiced cultivation. His guards finally reacted and rushed towards Yang Kai to protect their master. Although these guards are not weak, how can they be Yang Kai's opponents? Millions of swords fell one by one, like chopping melons and vegetables, but Yang Kai did not kill him. Although the tea house was full of blood and wailing, there was no danger of life. But Yang Kai's ferocious appearance frightened the eldest prince so much that he didn't even have the strength to escape. He was blocked in a corner of the tea house, looked at Yang Kai who was walking towards him step by step in horror, trembling all over, and shouted, "Don't come here, don't come here, I am the first prince, I order you to stop." Yang Kai grinned ferociously, blood dripping from the million sword, like a demon walking out of hell. The eldest prince wished he could pass out directly, but fear fermented in his heart, which made him more awake than usual. After a few steps, Yang Kai stood in front of the first prince, tilted his head to glance at him, and slowly stabbed him with the million sword. The first prince gasped, held his breath, and stared at the tip of the million sword, terrified beyond measure. When the million sword was about an inch away from the Fushu, the hazy green light reappeared, wrapping the million sword with great tenacity, blocking its progress, and the strong will be strong. What is this? Yang Kai tapped the green protection with the million sword, looking down at Fushu. Fushu's 2 rows of teeth were fighting, and he was unable to answer Yang Kai's question. A voice came from the side. Blessed by the holy tree, the royal family will not be hurt. Yang Kai turned his head and looked, only to see the goatee who had left just now appeared in the tea house again at some point, still sitting in the same position as before, staring at him faintly as if he had never moved. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows and said, "Blessed by the holy tree." "What holy tree?" Goatee said. "It has nothing to do with you, and it has nothing to do with me." Half talking, "I hate people like you the most, what are you doing?" Yang Kai looked at him impatiently. The goatee said, "You offended the eldest prince, injured so many of his guards, and even frightened the eldest prince. There is no longer any place for you in the human imperial city." "I'm so scared." Yang Kai sneered. "Next, are you going to tell me that if you want to survive, you should hurry to kneel and lick the third prince? Only he can protect my safety." The goatee smiled and said, "Smart people know a little bit." Yang Kai snorted. "It seems that everything that happened here is within your expectations. The first prince was also found by you, right?" The goatee shook his head and said, "Don't wrong me, the eldest prince's pursuit of beauty is well known. When you and this girl appeared in human imperial city, someone went to inform him. The old man just anticipated the current situation, come here to join in the fun." After a pause, he looked at Yang Kai and said, "How? Are you still refusing?" Yang Kai hadn't answered yet, but Fu Shu, who was frightened over there, seemed to see a savior, looking at the goatee with burning eyes. "I remembered, you are the one next to the third, that who?" Yes, that's who. Hurry up and kill this guy, this prince will reward you a lot." The goatee gave the eldest prince a look of disdain. "This old man belongs to the third prince, so how could he help you?" The eldest prince is confused. Fu Shu turned pale and said, "Then what do you want to do? How about I give you the 2 women outside?" The goatee glanced between his legs, and sighed. "The old man is quite old, and it is not easy to guard the young yuan. The eldest prince kindly accepts it, but it is a pity that the old man is unable to bear it." How could you do this?" Fu Shu had a disappointed expression on his face. The goatee turned his head to look at Yang Kai again. "Is your answer the same?" Yang Kai put the broad million sword on his shoulder and sneered. The goatee understood, and said to Fu Shu, "Although the old man can't make a move, the old man can show the eldest prince a clear way." To be continued. Chapter 2958 Reappearance of Witchcraft. "Say what you say," Fu Shu hurriedly said. "There are not many strong men under him, and they are all lying down at this moment, so they can only pin their hopes on the goatee." The goatee said, "With the protection of the holy tree, the eldest prince will never be hurt. Since he won't be hurt, what are you afraid of him doing? You are also a prince after all, and you can mobilize the power of the holy tree. Even if you can't beat him, wouldn't you run away after grabbing it? As long as you return to the mansion, what can this person do to you?" Fu Shu's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and he cursed that he was really scared and confused. It was true that the old goat man said that he was protected by the sacred tree, and it was impossible for ordinary people to hurt him. He only hated himself for being so frightened just now. He didn't even think of such a thing, and hated Yang Kai for making him so embarrassed, and then looked at Zhu Qing standing there. His courage gradually grew, and he slowly stood up from the corner up. Although his body was still trembling a little, it was much better than blindly begging for mercy and running away just now. The previous conflict also attracted many people from the imperial city to wait and see. At this moment, the tea house is surrounded by people watching from all directions. Several teams of guards patrolling nearby came to ask questions. Surprised. After seeing Fu Shu again, they stepped forward to salute and inquired about the situation. "You guys came just in time." The appearance of these imperial city guards made Fu Shu even more confident, pointing at Yang Kai and saying, "This person is extremely vicious, hurt my guards, and even insulted the prince. Quickly follow the prince to take him down." When the guards heard this, they agreed one after another. A sneer appeared on Fu Shu's face, and the sound of curse words suddenly sounded in his mouth. The voice was obscure and difficult to understand, and the others were confused, but Yang Kai was taken aback. He is too familiar with this incantation. When the incantation sounded, a magnificent battle scene appeared in his mind involuntarily. When a conflict arises, the witches will chant such spells. The chanting of the incantation made people's blood boil and filled their chest with killing intent, wishing to destroy everything in front of them. Fu Shu's incantation is very short, and it seems that there are some changes, but it remains the same. A ray of light suddenly burst out, covering the guards. In the next instant, the energy and blood of many guards suddenly rolled, and their figures swelled suddenly, as if a balloon had been blown up. Everyone's exposed skin glowed bright red, and even those pairs of eyes all turned red. Timidity and fear disappeared from them, replaced by firmness and bravery. Bloodthirsty technique. Yang Kai's eyeballs almost popped out. He never thought that today, after hundreds of thousands of years, he could still see the bloodthirsty technique from someone else's hands. Although this bloodthirsty technique has changed somewhat, Yang Kai will definitely not admit his mistake. In the cave before, there were some traces of witchcraft when Liao Guanxi cast the spell, but it was not obvious, and Yang Kai didn't care too much, but now it seems that there is still witchcraft in the wheel world. I don't know how it has been passed on for so long. Zhu Qing obviously didn't expect such a scene. Maimo looked curiously at those warriors who had changed, a little puzzled. When Fu Shu's incantation sounded again, Yang Kai already knew what type of witchcraft it was. This witchcraft was the most troublesome witchcraft for the demons back then, and it was also a witchcraft that could not be cracked. It is precisely because of the protection of this witchcraft that the barbarians can compete with the demons. Yang Kai knew the horror of this witchcraft. How could he let Fu Shu display it? He stepped forward, and the million swords disappeared slowly. When his hands clapped together, a huge moon blade slashed towards Fu Shu. The attack was so sudden and unpredictable that the goatee was secretly startled. Fu Shu was naturally taken aback, but he was ignorant, so he kept in mind what the goatee said just now. Even though he was terrified, there was no intention of avoiding or resisting, and the curse in his mouth became louder and louder. The huge moon blade slashed at Fu Shu as expected, but was blocked by the green light emerging from Fu Shu's body, but this time the green light was particularly strong, almost verdant. This green light is a kind of shelter, and it will be strong when it is strong. From the other side, it shows the powerful killing of the moon blade. Silently, the magic power enough to devour the space failed to do anything to the talisman, and the green light was once again attacked by the moon blade, but a small crack appeared at the position where it was in contact with the moon blade, which was almost imperceptible. This kind of shelter is not invincible, nor is it unbreakable. Yang Kai suddenly realized this. The reason why Yang Kai's attack had no effect before was because the strength was not strong enough. With this momentary delay, Fu Shu had already completed his witchcraft. Another ray of light burst out, covering the guards. In the dark, there seems to be something that connects these people together, making them live and die together, and the power of energy and blood of all people gathers in one place and soars into the sky. I wish the sun will change color. Chain of life. Yang Kai gritted his teeth and growled, never expecting that one day he would face the two major war witchcrafts of bloodlust and chain of life. In the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland, the barbarian army led by Yang Kai relied on these two. This kind of witchcraft is invincible, and because of this, Yang Kai knows their power better than anyone else. The goatee showed surprise. You actually know the holy art. What is a holy technique? Yang Kai took a few steps back and stood side by side with Zhu Qing, looking forward coldly. The group of guards who were given the bloodthirsty technique and the chain of life consisted of about 30 people. No matter who these 30 people were, they were not as good as Emperor Zun. Void King two-layer only, such a group of people, if they fight alone, Yang Kai can blow them over with a single breath, and can easily teach them how to behave. But now they have the capital to fight the Emperor to the death. The reputation of war witchcraft is not blown out. Goatee said, only the royal family with a body of 6 leaves or more can use the power of the sacred tree to perform the secret technique. You don't know the sacred technique, how can you name the sacred technique? Yang Kai didn't answer him, and whispered to Zhu Qing, this is a little troublesome. Zhu Qing said, I will deal with these people, and the prince will be handed over to you. Yang Kai shook his head and said, they are not easy to deal with, let me do it. Zhu Qing said leisurely, don't underestimate me, okay. Besides, I don't want to fight against that annoying guy. Since you have said so, that's the only way to do it. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders. Zhu Qing snorted. if you can't solve his words, don't even think about touching me in the future. When the words fell, he was already in shape and rushed forward. Yang Kai wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, "Do you want to be so ruthless?" Goatee poured cold water on the side and said, "It's useless, since the holy spell has been released, you have no chance of winning, unless you can reverse the holy spell, but then you have to get the protection of the holy tree first." Fu Shu was furious. "Which side are you on, old man?" The goatee said indifferently. "The old man is just watching the fun, and doesn't stand on either side. The eldest prince should concentrate on fighting the enemy, and be careful not to lose face of the royal family." Fu Shu was overwhelmed by what he said, and his ambition was high. "Then widen your dog eyes to see clearly." While the few people were talking, Zhu Qing had already fought with the more than 30 guards. When the violent energy overflowed, the small tea house collapsed suddenly, and the owner of the tea house ran to the street crying and yelling. Soon Zhu Qing discovered the difficulty of this group of people. Their actions are not very flexible. After all, there are more than 30 people, and they have no cooperation and no rules when fighting. They often interfere with each other. C looks clumsy. But there are more than 30 people like this, and each of them has the ability to take her attack hard. Every time she strikes, any cat or dog can block it, which is unbelievable. She is a dragon, and her strength is violent. Waiting for the 3-layer mirror of Emperor Zun, I dare not say that she is safe and sound, but these miscellaneous troops do arrive. After several punches, Zhu Qing quickly discovered the secret of their ability to receive their own attacks. "I don't know what's going on with these people, no matter who is blocking him, all his attacks are scattered, and these more than 30 people are responsible for it. One chopstick can be broken easily, and the resistance of 2 chopsticks is doubled, not to mention the more than 30 people who have been subjected to some kind of holy magic. After the power of qi and blood is stimulated, these people are not afraid of pain and danger, everyone is red eyeballs, the attacks they can bear increase geometrically." Zhu Qing's complexion turned cold, and her attacks became more and more fierce. To her, it was just a test. There was a bang, the battlefield kept shifting, and half of the street was quickly affected. On the former site of the tea house, Yang Kai stared at Fu Shu, and said lightly, "You have heard Madame's words, for the sake of this young master's future happiness, please, eldest prince, lie down." When the words fell, the whole person suddenly appeared in front of Fu Shu, almost sticking to him. The goatee's eyelids shrank, and his pupils became the size of pinpoints. At that moment just now, he didn't see clearly what was going on. Fu Shu screamed and almost fell down again, but quickly stabilized his mind, gritted his teeth and said, "You think the prince is afraid of you?" Yang Kai raised his hand and punched him fiercely in the face. Fu Shu didn't react at all, the fist had already hit his face, but fortunately, the green light appeared to block the blow, without causing any harm to him, otherwise he would have been killed on the spot. His face turned pale, but he gritted his teeth and sang the incantation. He was going to cast a bloodthirsty spell on himself, so that he would no longer have the emotion of fear. Yang Kai stared at his chest suddenly and said, "Eldest prince, you are only 8 leaves, tisk tisk, the third prince is all 9 leaves, why do you have 1 leaf less than him as a big brother? It is the emperor who treats him as there's some preference, or are you unpopular?" Fu Shu's incantations came to an abrupt end, and he said angrily, "Don't talk nonsense here, how could the father favor the third child, I am the eldest prince." Chapter 2959 I am the ancient witch king. That's right, but the third prince does have 1 leaf more than you. If I'm not wrong, the more leaves you have, the more prestigious you are. From this point of view, you are indeed not as good as the third prince. That's because my prince's cultivation is not enough. Yes, that's it, this prince is not willing to practice, so there is only 8 leaves. If any Japanese prince has the same cultivation as the third child, just 9 leaves can be easily captured. Quote. Tisk tisk tisk. Yang Kai looked contemptuous. "I don't think so, I know what I know, if you are an emperor, I won't like you. If you want to pass the throne someday, you must considering the third prince. The third prince is among dragons and phoenixes, he has a good cultivation and treats others generously, how can you compare?" You shut up." Fu Shu was furious by Yang Kai, and he rushed over with all his teeth and claws, relying on the protection of the sacred tree, looking brave and fearless. Although Yang Kai was talking, his hands never stopped, and he kept attacking all over Fu Shu's body, but he was still unable to break through the protection of the green light, and the first prince's attack on him was nothing more than scratching an itch, which could be completely ignored. For a moment, the two started fighting each other like street hooligans, but neither of them could beat the other, and all the attacks fell to nothing. The goatee sighed, he couldn't stand it anymore, and said, "Elder Prince, why bother with his rhetoric? You just need to use the holy technique. Your cultivation is not as strong as his, only the holy technique can avenge your shame." Quote. Yongkai turned his head and snorted coldly, "If you keep talking too much, believe it or not, I'll knock out your teeth." Goatee said earnestly, "Young people should know how to respect the old and love the young. It depends on who you are, someone like you who likes to pretend everywhere. I kill dozens of them every day." During the conversation, Fu Shu's incantation has already sounded again, but he was reminded by the goatee, no longer entangled with Yongkai, and directly applied a bloodthirsty technique to himself. The timidity and fear in his eyes disappeared quickly, and the eye sockets instantly disappeared. Filled with rage and excitement, he laughed. As if no one was around, he said in a fierce voice, "Boy, you dare to offend this prince. I want you to die. After I kill you, I will love that beauty well." Bloodthirsty can affect people's reason and make people lose some judgment, but it is undeniable that it still has a huge effect in some special cases. Fu Shu's fear and timidity were suppressed by the bloodthirsty technique. His red eyes fixed on Yongkai, as if he was a different person, he shouted loudly, "Shut!" An invisible force suddenly pushed over from the void, like a layer of ocean waves, binding Yongkai's raised fist. Yongkai insisted on not smashing down. No matter how he struggled, the fist was fixed in the air. He felt that his fist was being pulled by an invisible force, and the more he wanted to attack, the stronger the pulling force would be. Yongkai looked awe-inspiring. The eldest prince, Fu Shu, is only at the 3rd level of Daoyuan. He was able to achieve this level with the so-called holy art, which was beyond his imagination, and made him even more vigilant against this changed witchcraft. It is impossible for ordinary witchcraft to have such an effect, nor can it do such incredible things. He has always been the only one who fights higher and higher, killing enemies and exterminating enemies. This is the first time he has been hit by a guy whose cultivation base is weaker than his. He floated back and was blocked again, easily opening the distance between him and the talisman. After one move was successful, Fu Shu's confidence increased greatly. Rampant laughed and said, "Run. I'll see where you are going. Sword comes." He stretched out his hand and made a move, and suddenly a cloud of emerald green light burst out in the void. The color of the light looked exactly the same as the energy protecting the talisman, and the light quickly gathered in midair, turning into a shocking long sword. Fu Shu pointed his hand, and the long sword slashed at Yongkai. Yongkai's pupils shrank slightly, and he instinctively felt the strength of this blow. Under the surge of space law, several moon blades greeted him with a flick of his fingers. With a bang, the green long sword destroyed the moon blades along the way with a destructive force, but after intercepting the last moon blade, it also collapsed suddenly. Fu Shu shook his body, and 2 lines of blood flowed from his nostrils, but he didn't realize it, and raised his hands again, shouting loudly, "Come again." It was still a green light blooming, and it was still a huge green long sword. Yongkai glanced in a certain direction thoughtfully. Several times, he finally caught a subtle trace. Every time when the talisman was performing the holy art, it seemed that it would resonate with something in that direction. This resonance was very weak. I can't even notice it. It is impossible for the Fu Shu of the 3rd level of Daoyuan to have the strength to compete with him. The reason why he can do this is because he borrowed strength. With the help of the power of the holy tree. And the direction that resonates with it should be the direction where the holy tree is located. He wanted to see what the hell that so-called holy tree was, that it could have such a magical power. The tide-like divine sense spread out suddenly, causing a buzz in the void, and the goatee's face changed again. In an instant, everything in human imperial city was imprinted in Yongkai's mind, like the most outstanding painter drew a picture in his mind. Every detail is clearly visible. As the spirit advances, what he sees is getting farther and farther away. Suddenly a barrier blocked the front. Yongkai was caught off guard, and his divine sense hit it, making him dizzy for a while. Just at this time, the green long sword had already been chopped off, and it fell on Yongkai's shoulder, causing blood to flow on the spot. Fu Shu laughed loudly. "Let you be rampant, let you humiliate the prince, this is the price." He made a tactic with both hands, and controlled the green long sword to press down, as if he wanted to break Yongkai's sword into 2 halves. Yongkai let out a cold snort. With the million sword in his hand, he swung his sword upwards, and the piercing sword energy burst out, cutting off the green long sword. Fu Shu was stunned for a moment, a little surprised. Yang Kai Dao, Elder Prince, is this what you are capable of? It's just ridiculous, and you can use any means to see what you can do to me. Fu Shu was furious and yelled, "Don't be crazy, kid." He suddenly sang the incantation again, but this time Yang Kai didn't recognize what kind of witchcraft incantation it was, and at the same time as the incantation sounded, Fu Shu put on a posture of drawing a bow and shooting an arrow. A green arrow appeared in front of him strangely, he gently grasped it, and placed it on the invisible strong bow. Chasing the stars and chasing the moon. Die! Accompanied by Fu Shu's angry shout, the green arrow spun around, breaking through the barrier of space, leaving a vacuum zone visible to the naked eye along the road, and rushed to Yang Kai in an instant. Yang Kai tilted his head, and the arrow flew past his temples, cutting off a few strands of black hair and fluttering in the wind. How dare you hide? Fu Shu's whole body erupted like a volcano. No matter what he asked, he kept drawing his bow and shooting arrows, one after another shot at Yang Kai like shooting stars. The blood in his nostrils seemed to be venting. Like a flood from the gate, it flooded down, wet his clothes and the ground, but he didn't seem to notice it, and his whole body was in an indescribably excited state. 3 or 5 arrows came down, and even his 7 orifices began to bleed. Casting holy spells seemed to put a huge burden on him. There is no power in this world that is obtained for no reason. Even if Fu Shu, as the eldest prince, was born with the blessing of the sacred tree and could use powerful sacred arts, but with his Daoyuan third level, he showed that he could compete with Yang. To fight for the strength of the front, there must be a huge price to pay. His unrestrained attacks allowed Yang Kai to spy on the source of the holy power better and more conveniently. At a certain moment, Yang Kai frowned suddenly, as if thinking of something. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Fu Shu was overjoyed when he saw it, and said innocently, "Have you seen the strength of this prince? It's too late to kneel down and beg for mercy. This prince will definitely let you experience the torture of the world." While speaking, he raised his hand again, and the green arrow roared towards him. At this moment, Yang Kai suddenly opened his eyes, raised his hand slightly, and grabbed the green arrow in his hand, and the arrow, which contained a powerful force, was frozen in front of him in an instant, without moving. How come? Yang Kai and Fu Shu said this sentence at the same time, but one was bewildered and the other was shocked. Your breath. The goatee's eyeballs suddenly widened, staring at Yang Kai, like a fledgling calf, full of puzzlement. At the moment when Yang Kai closed his eyes and opened them, his aura suddenly changed drastically. It didn't become very powerful, but the current aura gave people an extremely ancient feeling, as if he had walked out of a distant time and space, and there was an inexplicable ancient rhyme exuding from all over his body. The green arrow fell into Yang Kai's hand and collapsed, and the sound of curse words resounded in Yang Kai's mouth. At this moment, he is not Emperor Senior Realm, but a witch king from the southern barbarian tribe in the ancient world. His incantations were more obscure and ancient than those of the first prince. His voice was not loud, but it was extremely difficult to pronounce. The eldest prince was dumbfounded for a moment, and forgot to continue attacking, pointing at Yang Kai and kept pointing, as if he saw something impossible to happen. Goatee also shook his body violently, and he was dumbfounded. A small fiery snake suddenly appeared in front of Yang Kai, alive and well, rolling continuously in midair like a real creature. Holy art! Goatee exclaimed, almost biting his own tongue, but he quickly denied his judgment. This is not a holy art, because the fire snake does not have the unique green light of the holy art, but the entire process of casting the spell is almost the same as the holy art. This is the holy art. Yang Kai raised the corner of his mouth, and he clearly felt that he had established a connection with something in human imperial city, and this connection was exactly after he became the Witch King. It was just established, and after performing witchcraft, this layer of connection became much stronger. To be continued. Chapter 2960 I Can Know Holy Art. The little fire snake tumbling dexterously in midair brought unimaginable shock to everyone. Fu Shu was already dazed, staring blankly at the fire snake, completely forgetting that he was still in a fight. The goatee shouted loudly, "Prince, this is not a holy art, don't be blinded by his methods." Is this really a holy technique? Fu Shu turned his head and asked. With a goatee-like beard, he reiterated again, "This old man guarantees his life. This is definitely not a holy art, it just looks a bit similar to the holy art, nothing to be afraid of." Fu Shu was shocked when he heard the words, and shouted angrily, "I'll just say, how can a meager person like you perform the holy art? It turns out that you just lied to me, and you are doomed. He wanted to draw the bow and shoot the arrow again, but Yang Kai had already flicked his fingers, and the fire snake trembled straight, shooting towards him like an arrow from the string. Fu Shu turned a deaf ear and ignored the fire snake's attack, because he knew that the holy tree would provide him with strong protection, and any attack by Yang Kai would not be able to do anything to him, just like the previous situation. The fire snake doesn't seem to be very powerful, it's just a very common fire snake technique. In ancient times, even a sorcerer could perform witchcraft. With a bang, the fire snake hit Fu Shu's body, but it had an unexpected effect. The protective green light that emerged from the surface of Fu Shu's body was smashed by the fire snake. Although the fire snake disappeared at the same time, the scattered sparks splashed all over Fu Shu's body, making him scream. The goatee's eyelids shrank, faintly feeling that something was wrong. Logically speaking, Fu Shu, as the eldest prince, is blessed by the sacred tree in this human imperial city, and only those with 8 leaves and above are eligible to hurt him, but this inexplicable outsider actually did it, which is simply a bit strange. It was beyond his comprehension, and he couldn't figure out why this happened. And that secret technique, why does it look exactly the same as the holy tree? Except that there is no power attached to the holy tree, it is simply another template of holy art. I also have to be blessed by the sacred tree. Yang Kai looked at the first prince with a smile. Nonsense. Fu Shu extinguished the sparks on his body and cursed angrily, it's up to you. Is it nonsense? The first prince should take a look for himself. While Yang Kai was speaking, he suddenly raised his hand, and a fire snake appeared in front of him again, and another one was approaching, the third and the fourth. You, Fu Shu was shocked, why don't you need to chant mantras? Why do I need to sing? Yang Kai continued to perform witchcraft, still a simple fire snake technique. Chanting incantations is naturally required to perform holy arts. Fu Shu felt that common sense had been broken, and it was a little difficult to accept. Yang Kai sneered, how can such rubbish like you be compared with this young master? This young master's holy art is at your fingertips. As soon as he spoke, there was already a dense swarm of fire snakes in front of him, as if a snake den had been taken away. And with the passage of time, the newly appeared fire serpent has undergone some changes. On top of the fiery red color, a trace of green light appeared, although it was not very eye-catching, it was undoubtedly a green light. The color of the green light became more and more intense, and the last few fire snakes that appeared were almost all green. Up. Yang Kai finally stopped and looked at Fu Shu with a smile. Look, I said that I have also been blessed by the holy tree. Hiss. Goatee gasped, cold sweat dripped down his forehead, the development of the situation was beyond his expectation, this outsider actually got the blessing of the holy tree, and cast the holy spell with the power of the holy tree, it is absolutely impossible for the third prince to want him to join him. It can even be said that the arrival of this person is enough to cause a big storm that never happens in the imperial city, and it might change the current situation of the imperial city. He couldn't afford any thought of wooing Yang Kai now, and he was only thinking about how to get out of his body later. Fu Shu over there was also shocked and couldn't say a word. The huge emotional change caused a series of chain reactions. First, the bloodlust reached its limit and was lifted, and then the sequelae of unrestrained use of holy arts broke out. Fu Shu he fell to the ground with a scream and covered his nose with his hands, but he couldn't stop the blood from flowing. The power of qi and blood was suddenly weakened to the extreme, as if he would die at any moment. He wailed loudly and asked for help, but can anyone help at this time? The enemy who had been fighting with him before was the first to fall. Yang Kai pouted, too lazy to add trouble. Fu Shu was not in his eyes at all, only relying on the power of the holy tree to deal with him. Now that Yang Kai is also standing on the same starting line, Fu Shu is no longer a concern. He turned his head and looked at the goatee with a smile. The latter sweated coldly on his forehead, and said in a harsh voice, could it be that you are the lost royal family? Yang Kai said indifferently, your imagination is a little rich. Then why can you activate the power of the holy tree? The goatee couldn't understand this. Who told you that only the royal family can be blessed by the sacred tree? Yang Kai sneered. Goatee was stunned, thinking about it carefully. This deep-rooted thought was entirely due to the common sense he had accepted since he was a child. It seemed that no one had ever said that only the royal family could be blessed by the sacred tree and mobilize the power of the sacred tree, and no one had ever doubted this statement. Goatee's mouth suddenly became parched, and he faintly felt that a huge secret was about to be revealed in front of him, revealing the truth. He asked tremblingly, who can be blessed by the holy tree? Yang Kai said coldly. The old thing is rebellious, why are you asking this? Do you have any ideas? The goatee was frightened and angry. Stop talking nonsense. While speaking, he looked around, as if he was afraid that someone would hear what he said. Yang Kai snorted coldly. Go and tell your master, so that he will not bother me in the future. This young master has no intention of provoking anyone, let alone making enemies with anyone, but he and his wife accidentally wandered here, and will leave when they find a way out, if anyone dares to come and make trouble, The goatee was amnesty like a dream, and he kept nodding his head and said, I will definitely bring you the words of your lord. As for what decision the third prince will make, it is beyond the old man's ability to interfere. I also know that you don't have the ability to interfere, so get out. Yang Kai waved his hand like chasing flies away. The goatee ran away immediately. How dare he stay here? Fu Shu was still howling, his voice was extremely miserable. In the sky not far away, Zhu Qing was in a bloody battle with more than 30 warriors. Although these 30 people were blessed with bloodthirsty skills and life chains by the talisman, they were able to fight together, but how could they be an opponent of the dragon clan? The bloodthirsty technique only stimulates the power of their qi and blood, making their flesh and blood stronger and more courageous. Even if they have the ability to improve their strength, there is no way to improve them too much at once, and the chain of life can only make their lives stronger. Coexist and enhance their ability to resist blows. Their offensive ability remains at their own level. It's not easy for Zhu Qing to deal with them, the situation has always been one-sided, but because of the existence of the chain of life, it is still quite difficult for Zhu Qing to deal with them. When Yang Kai raised his hand, the fire snakes that had been floating in front of him flew towards that side with a whimper, hitting the crowd all of a sudden. The chain of life that connects their blood and vitality is instantly like a balloon being poked holes by countless fire snakes, exhausting all their energy. The life chain technique was released, the connection was interrupted, and more than 30 people were suddenly drawn into Zhu Qing's berserk aura. It is impossible for normal life chains to be lifted so easily, but the witchcraft performed by Fu Shu was blessed by the power of the holy tree. Yang Kai is now using the same power to interfere, and the life chains will break without attack. The enemy suddenly became so vulnerable, Zhu Qing didn't bother to chase and kill. Bullying such a weak is a shame to the dragon clan. She flew to Yang Kai's side in a flash, and glanced at the Fu Shu who fell in the pool of blood, disgusted. Why is this person still alive? Yang Kai was shocked and said, you still want to kill them all? It really is the most poisonous woman's heart. Zhu Qing snorted coldly. This kind of garbage, what is he doing alive? You're right. Yang Kai suddenly raised his head and looked somewhere in the crowd. Your Excellency has watched such a good show for so long, shouldn't it be time to come out? You heard it too, if you don't come out again, my wife will send you a get rid of this eldest prince, don't cry when the time comes. After Yang Kai finished speaking, a figure suddenly flashed and appeared directly in front of the first prince. This person was tall but skinny, as if he was malnourished, standing there like a bamboo pole, very conspicuous. The painful Fu Shu saw this person, his expression was startled, he pointed at him and said, you are. The thin bamboo pole didn't say a word, bent down and stuffed an elixir into Fu Shu's mouth, then knocked him out with a palm, reached out to lift Fu Shu up, turned and looked at Yang Kai coldly. Oh, the Emperor's three-layer mirror. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. Although he knew that this person had a good background in the Imperial City, Yang Kai was a little surprised to see a three-layer mirror of Emperor Senior so quickly. Xiao Yuyang of Star God Palace is not weak at all. In other words, he is at the same level as Master Wen, Elder Xiao and others, not some embroidered pillows. If he really tried to do it, Yang Kai might not be able to beat him. Of course, in this human imperial city, with the blessing of that sacred tree, crushing him shouldn't be a problem. He is now also the object of the blessing of the holy tree, and he has been using the fire snake technique non-stop before, just to establish a connection with the holy tree. The holy tree does not protect the royal family, it only protects the witches. When seeing the first prince perform witchcraft, Yang Kai had some guesses. In order to confirm his guess, he would use the power of witches. Chapter 2961 Human Emperor. Facts have proved that his guess was correct. When he cast the first fire snake art, he really resonated with the holy tree and created some subtle connections. The subsequent repetitions made this connection even more difficult. A lot stronger. That's why he was blessed by the sacred tree, and he was able to perform the sacred art that Fu Shu and the goatee knew. The so-called holy art is nothing but witchcraft blessed by another kind of power. People in human imperial city think that the sacred tree protects the royal family, so the royal family is awe-inspiring and inviolable here, has many privileges, and no one can resist. But in fact, it might be because in human imperial city, only the royal family members or witches can establish resonance and connection with the sacred tree, and can mobilize the power of the sacred tree. Except for the royal family, other people could not practice witchcraft at all, or were prevented from practicing witchcraft. This should be the means of human imperial city control. The only thing Yang Kai couldn't figure out was what the holy tree was, why it protected the witch, and could be used by the witch. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind, and Yang Kai couldn't find the answer for the time being, unless he went to see the so-called holy tree with his own eyes. But how easy is this kind of thing? Since the sacred tree is so special and important, it must be under the protection of the imperial city. It would be more difficult for him as an outsider to see it than ascending to the sky. He put his mind on the thin bamboo pole in front of him, and said with a smile, "Let me guess, the eldest prince and the third prince have all appeared. Are you from the second prince's person?" No, you should not be from the second prince's person, although I don't know if there is such a person as the second prince." The thin bamboo pole looked silent, and said lightly, "How can you see it?" His voice is like a thin body, and it sounds dry, as if he hasn't had a sip of water for decades. Yang Kai snorted and said, "Since ancient times, the royal family has no kinship, and the princes must fight fiercely. If you are really the second prince, I am afraid that the eldest prince will die early and be reborn. How can you be kind enough to save him? The panacea you just gave him good. It looks like you have some observation skills." Shujugan slightly nodded. "You are right, I am not the second prince's person." "Then who are you from?" Yang Kai asked with narrowed eyes. The thin bamboo pole said, "By the order of the emperor, please enter the palace." "Human sovereign." Yang Kai raised his eyebrows, turned to Zhu Qing and said, "Ma'am, do you think we should go or not?" Zhu Qing said, "It's up to you to decide." Yang Kai nodded slightly, and chuckled lightly, "Ask me first, if I hit the first prince, human sovereign won't do anything to me, right?" The thin bamboo pole said, "The emperor's mind, as a subordinate, I don't try to figure it out, I only follow orders, please go ahead." While speaking, he turned sideways, posing an inviting gesture. Yang Kai said to Zhu Qing, "It seems that we have to go there, and I also have some questions I want to ask others." "Then go." Zhu Qing nodded. "Lead the way." Yang Kai pouted at the thin bamboo pole. Without saying a word, the thin bamboo pole flew in a certain direction, and Yang Kai followed. The little black dog ran out from nowhere, barked for a while, and rushed into Zhu Qing's arms. During the fight just now, this guy hid without a trace, but now that the battle is over, he showed up immediately. The human imperial city is huge, and the thin bamboo pole is obviously a powerful person, because Yang Kai had noticed the 5-leaf logo on his clothes before. The 5-leaf logo is far from the first prince and the third prince, but it is also a symbol of power. According to what Goti said before, only the 6-leaf body is qualified to mobilize the power of the holy tree and cast the holy spell that crushes everything. 5 leaves and 6 leaves are only a thin line away. Yang Kai estimated that in this human imperial city, all the real royal relatives should have at least 6-leaf body, like a thin bamboo pole, with a high level of cultivation but no royal blood. 5-leaf is the pinnacle, it is impossible to have room for improvement. He is the emperor's 3-layer mirror, and he is definitely the suzerain of a top sector, a powerful party outside, but in this human imperial city, he is a subordinate who is driven by others. In this human imperial city, distinguishing civilians from dignitaries by having leaves but not leaves, and distinguishing real nobles from powerful men under their command by the number of leaves, this is a means of control. Yang Kai will not agree with it, and does not want to criticize it. "I just feel that the emperor is really stingy in his cronyism, and his first impression has changed a lot. The reason why the human sovereign summoned him was probably because he was able to communicate with the holy tree to activate the power of the holy tree. His appearance and deeds shook the foundation of the emperor's rule. He was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, splashing layers of ripples on the surface of the lake, attracting the attention of the overlord in the lake. Yang Kai reckoned that if he refused the human emperor's call, he would immediately be repelled and hunted down by the entire human emperor city, so no matter what, he couldn't refuse this call. Since he couldn't refuse, he could only go along with the flow. But this trip will definitely not be peaceful, and more precautions are needed. In the human emperor city, only the rich and powerful can fly in the air, and no matter how high the leafless body is, they have to walk honestly underground. The thin bamboo pole has the body of 5 leaves, and it seems to be a strong man beside the emperor, so he is naturally qualified to fly. He flew all the way, and the guys who were coming to him retreated one after another. The identities of those dignitaries are not as good as thin bamboo poles. Yang Kai quickly noticed that the 6-leaf body was rare, at least he didn't see one when he flew all the way. Most of the dignitaries were under the 3-leaf, and the people above the 3-leaf were extremely rare. In such a comparison, the thin bamboo pole and 5-leaf body seemed to stand tall. The only difference between him and the first prince and the third prince was that he could not mobilize the power of the holy tree. Because he was not born in the royal family, he could not practice witchcraft and could not obtain the blessing of the holy tree. The imperial palace is located in the very center of the human imperial city. There are many palaces and it occupies a large area. It is the direction where Yang Kai felt the source of resonance before, and it is also the direction where the holy tree provides power. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction of the sacred tree, but saw that there was a haze, as if covered by some powerful formation, making it impossible for people to spy on the internal situation. It should be these formations that blocked his divine sense from prying. La. Not long after, the thin bamboo pole flew downwards and landed in front of a palace. The palace was extremely magnificent and seemed to be old. Standing outside the palace, a desolate and ancient aura rushed towards him, as if telling the years go by. Yang Kai looked sullen. The thin bamboo pole handed the eldest prince who had been in his hand to the guards standing outside the hall, turned his head and said, "Go in, both of you, His Excellency the Emperor is inside." Yang Kai smiled. "There won't be any traps, right? Are there hundreds of knives ambushing inside, just waiting for the 2 of us to go in and hack and chop?" Shujugen said with an expression on his face. "Is this a joke from the outside world? It doesn't sound very funny." Yang Kai shrugged. "That's because you don't have a sense of humor." The thin bamboo pole said, "Master Human Emperor is supreme, if you really want to deal with you, there is no need for any trap. They're all in the Emperor Senior stage, what are you bragging about?" Yang Kai curled his lips and walked towards the main hall. The thin bamboo pole pointed to the little black dog in Zhu Qing's arms and said, "Leave the beast." Woof. The little black dog barked at the thin bamboo pole, obviously annoyed. Zhu Qing shook her head and said, "Ah Wang won't stay. Not everyone can enter the human emperor's hall, let alone a beast, please don't make it difficult for me." The thin bamboo pole blocked the 2 of them with 1 step. Yang Kai sneered. "It was you who said that the human emperor summoned my husband and wife, and now he stops us here again, so you can't say a word." The thin bamboo pole opened its mouth, as if it was about to say something, when it suddenly turned its ears to listen, obviously someone was transmitting the sound to him. After a moment, he stepped aside and got out of the way. This is the way to treat guests. Yang Kai smiled slightly, and walked side by side with Zhu Qing. From the outside, the light inside the human emperor's hall is dim, and it seems that you can't see anything, but once you enter the inside, it is brightly lit. There are more than a dozen huge pillars standing all around, as if connecting the sky and the earth, dotted with night pearls, soft the light enveloped the entire hall. Pairs of eyes suddenly swept from all around. Yang Kai raised his brows, he didn't expect there to be so many people in the human emperor's palace. He glanced away, and soon found a familiar figure in the crowd. He greeted with a smile. "Hello, third prince, we met again so soon, I would like to thank the third prince for taking care of me before." The third prince snorted coldly, his eyes full of disdain. These people in the main hall are all above the 6-leaf body, in other words, they are all real relatives of the emperor, and they are all powerful witches, ranging in age from male to female. There are not many 9-leaf bodies, only 2, besides the third prince. There is also a beautiful woman in her early 30s, the 2 stand at the top of the hall, only under the dragon chair, and the rest of them are lined up on their sides. What surprised Yang Kai a little was that this beautiful woman actually had the cultivation base of Emperor Senior 2nd Order. There are more than 20 witches, with varying levels of cultivation, and the hall is full of people, but there is not a single Emperor's 3-layer mirror. And there is a huge dragon chair on the house, which is enough for people to lie on it without looking cramped. On the dragon chair, a slightly fat and half-grown old man sits on it. He doesn't look tall. The chair is round and round, which looks a little ridiculous. But the aura emanating from his body surprised Yang Kai. Before coming here, he was secretly speculating about the emperor's cultivation. The special situation in the city made him understand that as long as he can communicate with the sacred tree here, mobilizing the power of the sacred tree is the biggest reliance, and his own cultivation is second. So he vaguely guessed that the emperor's cultivation base should not be too high, so that he would not reach the level of the great emperor. Because of this, he came to the human emperor's palace with confidence and boldness to meet the human emperor. If the other party is really the great emperor, he probably won't even have the chance to resist. But now after meeting the human sovereign, Yang Kai realized that he was too naive. This human sovereign is not a great emperor, not even a 3-layer emperor senior mirror powerhouse. The aura emanating from him is actually only at the second level of Emperor Zun. And it's also extremely vain. Chapter 2962. You are the one who is going to kneel inside. Notice. The ruler of human imperial city, the supreme one, actually only has the cultivation level of Emperor Zun at the second level. If you hadn't seen this kind of thing with your own eyes, I'm afraid no one would believe it. Zhu Qing obviously didn't expect this, and she couldn't help being a little dazed. She was like a 3-layer mirror of Emperor Zun, and she could see through the details of the human emperor at a glance. The cultivation base of the second-layer realm seemed a bit ridiculous in her eyes. Moreover, the human sovereign is obviously old. Although I don't know how old he is, his vitality has begun to decline. In other words, the cultivation base of the second-level realm is his peak, and there is no room for further improvement. And it will gradually decrease with the passage of time. The vanity of that breath is the best proof. Bold, the emperor is above, why don't you kneel? There was a soft shout, but it was the beautiful woman standing at the top of the right hand who made the first attack. In the whole hall, only she and the third prince have the body of 9 leaves, but her cultivation level is 1 level higher than the third princess, and she has the strength of the second level of Emperor Senior. It can be said that among all the royal families, she is the most powerful one. Although human sovereign's cultivation base is the same as hers, but her strength has begun to decline, but she is different, it is the peak years of her life, and there is still a lot of room for improvement. If there is a chance, it is not impossible to be promoted to the third-level mirror. Yang Kai squinted and snorted coldly. The rules of your imperial city are really strange, you have to kneel when you see everyone, why don't you kneel to me? The beautiful woman took a step forward, her face was icy cold, and she pressed towards Yang Kai with a powerful aura. I am the second princess of the imperial city, one of me kneels, can you be worthy? Yang Kai was unmoved, and proudly said, Prince and princess are like floating clouds to me. In my eyes, whoever has a big fist can stand up straight and speak. The eldest prince has been beaten into a dead dog by me, let alone what kind of second princess are you? The second princess Dianfeng narrowed her eyes slightly. Dangerous light flashed. So, do you think your fist is big? Yang Kai took a serious look at her and said with a sneer, at least it's bigger than her chest. A group of princes and princesses chuckled. I just feel that this outsider's mouth is really poisonous, and the second princess thinks she has a high level of self-cultivation. On weekdays, she doesn't look down on any royal family, and she doesn't even look at the top-ranked princes. It's a pity that she is born as a woman, which is a flaw. If it is a man, I'm afraid she has already been appointed as the next person the emperor's heir. But as a woman, she doesn't have enough capital to be proud, and her butt is not round. The chest is not big, except for the face, there is nothing worthy of praise. Yang Kai's words immediately hit the second princess's sore spot, her face was livid with anger, and she gritted her teeth, kneel down. When the words fell, he suddenly raised his hand, and a ball of green light shot towards Yang Kai like an arrow from the string, showing the appearance of a slap on top of his head, pressing down fiercely, as if he wanted to brute force pushed Yang Kai to his knees on the ground. I think it's you who is going to kneel. Yang Kai snorted coldly. While stretching out her hand to pull Zhu Qing behind her, she made a clench with one hand, and the same dark green light bloomed. This ray of light is not as huge as the second princess, but it is undoubtedly much brighter and more concise. All the royal families in the hall changed color. The light rushed upwards and directly melted into the emerald green palm. Under the eyes of everyone, the palm suddenly turned in one direction and pressed towards the second princess. It's the same as dealing with herself in turn. The third prince's eyes narrowed, and an unprecedented sense of crisis lingered in his heart. He glanced up quietly, only to see that the emperor's expression remained motionless. Sitting there with half-closed eyes, as if he had fallen asleep. A mountain of pressure fell from the sky. The second princess's complexion suddenly became extremely ugly, and there was a creaking sound from her body, and her figure slowly became shorter. She resisted desperately, constantly urging power, and wanted to resonate with the holy tree, but there seemed to be another force that interfered with her, making it impossible for her to establish a connection with the holy tree, and she could only rely on stand firm on your own level. She finally realized the feeling of being oppressed by the holy art. The cultivation level of the man opposite her was obviously not as good as her own, but with the help of the holy art, she was able to play with her in the palm of her hand. An unprecedented sense of shame welled up in her heart, making her face turn red, and she could only grit her teeth and drink in a low voice, "What are you looking at? Hurry up and help." Only then did the shocking royal family come to their senses. Just as they were about to make a move, Zhu Qing suddenly said indifferently, "I see who dares to move." At this point, a huge red dragon figure suddenly appeared from the body. The red dragon was more than 30 feet long, hovering in the main hall, and its huge body almost filled half of the imperial palace. It was as thick as a real dragon. The prestige fills the square space, making people feel chills and have difficulty breathing. On the raised dragon head, 2 huge dragon eyes reflect everything, exuding awe-inspiring and inviolable majesty. Everyone was stunned, looking at the huge dragon shadow stupidly, and there was a sound of swallowing saliva. The human sovereign, who had been as steady as a mountain, finally opened his half-squinted eyes. An astonishing ray of light bloomed in those seemingly cloudy eyes. He raised his head to look at the dragon eyes, and in an instant, there was a surge of spiritual power in the hall. The red dragon raised its head and roared deafeningly, and the gust of wind that it set off knocked several weak royal families to one side or the other. The full force of the original power of the dragon clan directly made Zhu Qing's strength surpass the level of the emperor's 3-layer mirror. Even if these royal families have the blessing of the holy tree, they will not get any benefits. The second princess, who was struggling to support over there, was even more embarrassed. Yang Kai had already cut off the connection with the sacred tree. Her face instantly became extremely white, and a huge sense of shame filled her heart, making her experience a feeling worse than death. The imperial city of humanity has been standing for hundreds of thousands of years, and the royal family thrived alone. They have long since developed a superior character. Only commoners have ever knelt down to the royal family. This is the first time in history that a royal family has kneeled down to the commoners. Yang Kai didn't continue to exert pressure, turned his head to look at the emperor and said, "What do you say, my lord? If you look at it again, your daughter may really kneel down for me. Although I can't afford her to kneel down, but bullying is not always a matter of long faces for women. There is a saying, a good man doesn't fight with a woman. Eh?" The human sovereign stood up slowly, and a not too loud voice sounded in the human sovereign hall. "This sovereign's goddaughter has nothing to do, guests please stop." When the princes and princesses heard this, their faces changed slightly. They have never spoken to people so politely before the emperor, and they are extremely dignified even to their children on weekdays. When was there a time when they were so gentle? A strange color flashed in the third prince's eyes, as if he had guessed something, and when he looked at Yang Kai again, his eyes had completely changed. He didn't expect that the guy he dismissed on the space magic circle would have such a powerful capital after he hadn't seen him for half a day. Yang Kai looked at human sovereign with a smile, didn't stop, didn't reply, just froze there. The red dragon that filled half of the main hall raised its head slightly, and the dragon's power became more and more powerful. A look of annoyance flashed in Renwang's eyes, but he didn't attack. Instead, he turned his head to look at the 2 princesses and said, "Fu Yu, your words and deeds are unreasonable, and you have offended the guests invited by the emperor. Please apologize quickly." "Father Emperor." The second princess, who was called Fu Yu, was shocked when she heard the words, and looked at the emperor human in disbelief. After meeting the majestic gaze of the Emperor Ren, her eyes trembled, and she quickly lowered her head, gritted his teeth and said, "Fu Yu has eyes but no eyes to collide. My lord, please don't blame me." Her tone was extremely blunt, especially the word, adult, was extremely vague. It was obvious that she had never done such a thing, let alone called others that way. Yang Kai laughed loudly. "Since human sovereign has opened his mouth, then this face is naturally to be given, Chinger, accept it." When the words fell, he was the first to accept the witchcraft, and the green palm that had been pressing on Fu Yu's head suddenly dispersed, disappearing in the blink of an eye, and the red dragon that filled half of the hall also collapsed invisible like a bubble, and the dragon's power dissipated. The many royal families were slightly relieved. Fu Yu got up slowly, with her head lowered. No one could see her face and eyes, but her trembling body showed the extreme unrest in her heart. "Give me a seat." Human sovereign raised his hand. Immediately, someone brought two extremely luxurious chairs from the inner hall and placed them not far below the dragon chair. Yongkai smiled slightly. You don't need to sit down. I think Lord Human Sovereign should have a lot of things to ask me, and I just have something to ask, sir. The Human Sovereign didn't force him, nodded and said, That's right, I do have something to ask you. Yongkai assumed a posture of listening. The Emperor asked, Where did you come from? Star Boundary, I wonder if my lord has heard of it. Human Sovereign nodded. Of course I have heard that Human Sovereign City has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and outsiders have come in one after another. I don't know when it started. The people who came in claimed to come from the Star Realm. See, it looks like you do too. Yongkai smiled slightly. You call this place the Wheel of the Wheel, and there is a space intersection with the Star Realm, so those who can come in are naturally from the Star Realm. The Human Sovereign said again, How did you manage to enter the Human Sovereign City? As far as I know, no one should activate the space magic circle for you, because you have already killed that person. Yongkai raised his eyebrows and said, My lord's news is so well informed, it took only half a day to find out. If someone is dead, it is natural to investigate carefully. Yongkai suddenly shook his head and said, I think this is very unfair. Only adults ask questions, and I am responsible for answering them. This is not cost-effective. Why don't we take turns to ask each person a question, answer those who can answer, and change the question if you can't answer, ask, how? Many royal families were dumbfounded. It was the first time they saw someone haggling with the emperor, and they said it so righteously, yet the emperor didn't intend to get angry at all, just pondered for a moment before nodding his head and said, As you wish. Quote. The strangeness in the third prince's eyes deepened. I set off for Shanghai today to participate in an author salon at the starting point. I won't be able to return until the 8th. There may not be a time code word there. Xiaomo tries to change it twice a day. If there is only one change, please forgive me. Search for Momo to add attention. If there is any problem, I will notify it on it as soon as possible. In addition, today is June 1st. I wish all book friends can have a childlike heart, forget their troubles, and be carefree. Finally, ask for tickets, recommended tickets, monthly tickets, all of them, to be continued. Chapter 2963 Interrogation. So it's my turn now? Yongkai said, his face suddenly sank. Where is the couple who returned to the imperial city with me? Are they alive or dead? The emperor smiled. You have two questions. Yongkai shrugged his shoulders. The front one doesn't count. Alive. How did you enter the human emperor's city through the space magic circle without the human emperor's seal? Yongkai raised his hand and slapped the void in front of him, and the void suddenly collapsed, as if someone had moved a piece of a complete jigsaw puzzle. Although it recovered quickly, it can already be called miraculous. The human sovereign looked surprised when he saw it. So that's how it is. Yongkai Dao. I don't know how the emperor will deal with that couple. Kill. Yongkai was stunned. What's the reason? Liao Guanxi died in my hands. The couple just happened to meet, and they didn't help each other. Why did they kill them? My lord doesn't take human life seriously, right? The emperor looked at him with a smile. Yongkai coughed lightly and said, You ask first, you ask first. Human sovereign's gaze suddenly turned to the little black dog in Zhu Qing's arms, and said, Is this beast a monster? Yes. Yongkai nodded and admitted, although the blood is impure, it is indeed a monster. As soon as this remark came out, the faces of the royal family in the palace changed drastically, and they all looked at the little black dog in amazement, and then looked at Yongkai and Zhu Qing's eyes with extreme vigilance. Yongkai Dao, can you answer the question just now? The emperor said, if they don't report what they know, that's why they are going to die. Yongkai sneered, Your Excellency is really a great prestige. It seems that you care about those two people very much. As far as I know, you haven't even asked what their names are, have you? Let alone any friendship. I don't know what they are called, but I don't kill Boren, but Boren died because of me. It always makes people feel uneasy. You have a kind heart. Human sovereign nodded lightly, his eyes were like lightning, and he suddenly looked at Yongkai. Are you a demon? Yongkai sneered and said, if I were a demon race, I would have overthrown your emperor's palace long ago, and would I still stand here and talk to you? I don't think it looks like it either, but everything happens in case, so you have to ask clearly. Don't worry, my husband and I just wandered here unintentionally and don't have any thoughts about you, the imperial city. Yongkai sneered, how can we let those two go? Human Sovereign said indifferently. You can leave Human Sovereign City immediately, and you will never be allowed to set foot inside the city, so I will let them go. Yongkai curled his lips and said, as long as I can find the way back, I will leave immediately. Who cares to stay in your imperial city for a long time? If you want us to go, please show me the way. The Human Sovereign shook his head and said, it's easy to get in and hard to get out of the world of turning wheels. This world has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and no one has been able to leave here yet. If you can get in, you can get out. As long as you find a suitable method, if your lord really wants us to leave early, don't be so precious. The emperor shook his head slowly, I really don't know. Yongkai frowned, feeling that the Human Sovereign didn't seem to be lying, and it might be meaningless to continue asking, so he could only sigh dejectedly. My lord wants my husband and wife to leave, I can understand, but if there is no way out, what should I do after my husband and wife leave? Although the Zhuanlin realm is not big, it is not small. With the strength of your husband and wife, even if you encounter the demons, you may not be able to fight back. You can go anywhere except the human emperor city. Yongkai curled his lips and said, my lord's words are too irresponsible. If this is the case, then we will have to spend a while longer in this human imperial city. The Human Sovereign squinted his eyes and said, if you are like this, then I can only fight you with all my strength. I hope that the two of you are already mentally prepared to go to hell together. When he finished speaking, a circle of extremely dazzling emerald light suddenly erupted from the surface of his body, and his whole body seemed to be hundreds of years younger all of a sudden, and an aggressive sense of oppression suddenly struck. Yongkai frowned, and instinctively felt that this old guy was a bit annoying. He seemed to have established an unbreakable connection with the holy tree at this moment, and mobilized unimaginable power, giving people a sense of invincibility. The feeling of rivalry. Not only him, but also the surrounding princes and princesses, all of them staring at Yongkai and Zhu Qing. Drawn by their qi, Zhu Qing's body twitched, her face turned cold. Yongkai patted her on the shoulder, beckoning her to be calm, and said with a smile, my lord, don't be so nervous, it's not impossible to want us to leave human imperial city, as long as your lord agrees to my two conditions. The emperor raised his forehead and said, say. Yongkai raised a finger and said, let go of those two irrelevant people, they have no intention of disobeying you. The emperor said, it doesn't matter whether they die or not, what matters is your decision. Yongkai smiled and said, then I'll take it as if you agreed, the second condition. I'm going to see the sacred tree. Presumptuous. The third prince and the second princess shouted together, as if they had been insulted. Yongkai glanced at them coldly, is this request difficult to fulfill? Where is it presumptuous? The second princess said, the holy tree is the foundation of the human imperial city, and only the royal family can get close to it. Who dare you to make such an unreasonable request? She turned her head and said to the human emperor, father, daughter please order to kill such ulterior motives. She suffered a big loss at Yongkai's hands just now, she lost all face, and has been looking for an opportunity to get it back. Now that the opportunity has come, she is naturally eager to tear her face off with Yongkai. Although this couple looks very strong, but in people in the imperial city, the royal family is the strongest. As long as the emperor makes a move, no matter how powerful they are, they will not be able to make any waves. Human Sovereign didn't seem to hear Fu Yu's words, but looked at Yongkai deeply. What do you want to do? Yongkai shrugged his shoulders. It's just pure curiosity, I just want to know what the holy tree is. Why can it provide such a powerful force? The emperor said. What if the emperor disagrees? Yongkai laughed, and the laughter suddenly subsided, and he said coldly, then everyone will tear up your face and see if it is your royal family that is powerful, or my husband and wife. Anyway, no matter what, I am the holy tree. Check it out. Big words. Fu Yu was furious. Father, my daughter is willing to take the lead, and I will definitely let this kid know how powerful my royal family is. Yongkai squinted at her. It's embarrassing. Do you want me to teach you a lesson and teach you how to behave? Fu Yuki's 7 orifices smoked, her chest heaved violently, she wished she could fight Yongkai now to save face, even if she lost, it would be better than being squeezed by him like this, but the emperor didn't give orders, she really didn't dare to make a move easily. Must you see? Human Sovereign suddenly said, looking at Yongkai solemnly. Yongkai smiled slightly, I also ask you to satisfy my little wish. Human Sovereign closed his eyes and pondered, it seemed difficult to make a decision, and after a while he suddenly opened his eyes and said, answer me one more question. Yang Kai nodded and said, please say. The human sovereign narrowed his eyes slightly. How can you perform the holy art? Mobilize the power of the holy tree. Yang Kai chuckled lightly. Your Excellency should have already guessed, why bother to ask? Although I have some guesses, I can't believe it. As far as I know, the ancient witchcraft in the star world has long been extinct. How can you use it? It's just a coincidence that I learned a trick or two, and it's a trick in front of the adults. Human sovereign shook his head slowly, obviously not satisfied with this answer, but apart from this explanation, he couldn't think of any other better explanation. Just as Yang Kai guessed before, the holy tree is not protecting the royal family, but only the witches, and in the entire human imperial city, only the royal family can use the power of the holy tree to practice witchcraft and become a great witch, so let the royal family be in the human emperor. The city looks special. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, it is not that there are no people from the star realm entering the human imperial city. Every outsider who entered the human imperial city has detailed records. The records of those successive outsiders are almost the history of the development of the entire star realm. The changes in the laws of heaven and earth caused witchcraft to be gradually replaced by martial arts. The ancient way of witchcraft had indeed been extinct long ago, but Yang Kai, a living example, was right in front of his eyes, and the human sovereign could not take it seriously. I can satisfy your request. I hope you can keep your promise. The emperor finally agreed. He is not very willing to fight with Yang Kai. He can also use the holy technique, and he can also mobilize the power of the holy tree. If there is a fight, it will definitely be the result of both sides, not to mention that the woman is not an ordinary person. Holy Spirit Dragon Clan. The sacred art is enough to suppress the General Emperor's three-layer mirror, but it is still somewhat incapable of facing the real dragons. The second princess seemed to want to say something, but she swallowed the words again. She knew that the emperor had already made a decision, so it was useless to say anything now. Yang Kai smiled slightly. My lord, please don't worry, I've always been trustworthy and said what I said. Of course, I also hope that my lord will stop embarrassing the couple and let them go as soon as possible. The human sovereign nodded slightly, and said, follow me. When the words fell, he had already drifted towards the layman. Yang Kai and Zhu Qing stepped up to follow, and the other princes and princesses followed closely. The second princess looked at Yang Kai's back with extremely resentful eyes, as if wishing to smash him into pieces, but there was nothing she could do. The third prince came to her side and whispered, Father makes his own decision, what are you in a hurry for? Fu Yu was shocked when he heard the words, stared at the third prince in surprise, and replied, Third brother, you mean? The third prince passed her, and the voice came over, I didn't say anything. The second princess's eyes were bright, her heart was excited, and she vaguely looked forward to it. The holy tree is located in the deepest part of the palace, surrounded by strong guards, but there are more than a dozen guards on the surface, all of them are emperors, not to mention the powerful aura hidden in the dark. The human sovereign led the crowd to come, and the guards stepped forward to salute one after another. After seeing Yang Kai and Zhu Qing, they showed puzzled expressions, not knowing where these two people came from. Chapter 2964 Sacred Tree. These guards have been guarding this place all year round, and they are not allowed to come within 100 feet of the sacred tree, and they have not seen anyone other than the royal family come here for so many years. But today I saw two of them at once, and they were brought here by the emperor himself, which naturally made people unable to ignore it. A dense fog in front seems to be able to isolate the probe of the divine sense, block the line of sight, and make it difficult for people to see the situation inside. The human sovereign stopped, pointed to the front and said, the sacred tree is over there. If guests want to see it, they can just go inside and have a look. Yang Kai stared at the tumbling mist, smiled slightly, turned to Zhu Qing and said, wait for me, I'll come out right away. Be careful, Zhu Qing solemnly warned, after all, this is someone else's territory, although she and Yang Kai are not soft persimmons, but it is easy to hide the hidden arrows, it is hard to guard against it, there is no harm in being cautious. Don't worry, Yang Kai smiled slightly, and walked inward, only took 2 steps, and his figure suddenly disappeared into the mist without a trace. Zhu Qingdai frowned slightly, even though she knew it was the effect of the formation, she couldn't help feeling a little vigilant. Your Majesty is from the Holy Spirit Dragon Clan? Human Sovereign asked suddenly. Zhu Qing stared at the mist ahead with her beautiful eyes, as if she didn't hear him. The human sovereign didn't take it seriously, just smiled lightly and said, There is no Holy Spirit in the world of the wheel, but there are many records in the ancient books. It is rumored that the dragon clan is the leader of all spirits, extremely arrogant. How could your honor be mixed with a mortal? Lost the face of the dragon clan for no reason, and the relationship between my Emperor Guanzun and that person seems a bit extraordinary. If someone like you is outside, he doesn't even have the qualifications to talk to me. Zhu Qing suddenly turned her head and looked at the emperor seriously. There was a glimmer of gloom in Renwang's eyes, and many princes and daughters were also full of anger. No one has ever dared to talk to the emperor like this. It simply does not take people seriously. So you'd better be cautious in your words and actions. Since you know the dragon clan, you should know the temper of the dragon clan. After Zhu Qing finished speaking, she turned her head again and stared into the depths of the mist. The human sovereign was silent for a long time before he chuckled. The dragon clan is proud and well-deserved. He suddenly hooked his hand slightly, and a green light burst out from the mist in front of him, turning into a rope, directly binding Zhu Qing up. Although the dragon clan is strong, they are still not enough in front of the emperor. Zhu Qing's expression became extremely cold. She lowered her head to look at the shackles tied to her body, then raised her head and said, "I hope you know what you are doing." The human sovereign sneered and said, "This sovereign knows what he is doing. The human sovereign city has stood for hundreds of thousands of years. It is my royal family that protects the human race and allows them to have a foothold in this world. This sovereign will not allowing any accident to appear. Your friend is the biggest accident, and if it is an accident, it must be erased. So you brought us here so that it's easier to do it." The human sovereign sighed and said, "The methods are indeed a bit despicable, but I have to consider the human race, and I hope your honor can understand. Here, my royal family can display all its strength, but you don't have to worry. There are people on the road to Wangquan. I'm sure you won't be too alone." Zhu Qing didn't speak anymore. Just a dragon chant came out, and she turned into a 30-foot-long red dragon suddenly. The dragon's power filled the air, shaking the world. The green rope tied to her body was not broken. The rope seemed to be extremely tough and could change in size at will. Even if Zhu Qing showed the real body of the Holy Spirit at the first time, she was still bound tightly. The emerald green light is particularly conspicuous. Many princes and princesses all changed their colors, and they cast holy spells and blasted towards the giant dragon, hitting the hard scales, splashing sparks. The guards both on the surface and in the dark were also dispatched together. There were almost 16 emperor-level powerhouses in total. With more than one enemy, Zhu Qing was so powerful that she fell into the siege in an instant, and the dragon chant shook the sky. Among the princes and princesses, the second princess was particularly vicious, as if she wanted to double pay back the insult she had received from Yang Kai. The little black dog rushed out from the side without fear of death, took advantage of Fu Yu's unpreparedness, bit her thigh, bared his teeth and shook his head, as if he was going to bite a mouthful of flesh and blood on her leg. "Get out!" Fu Yu was furious, and slapped down fiercely. With the powerful cultivation of Emperor Zun's second-tier realm, coupled with the power of the sacred tree, the power of this blow was extremely terrifying. The little black dog was extremely nimble, dodging the blow in a flash, and bit off the clothes on Fu Yu's legs, exposing a large piece of snow-white skin. Fu Yuki's nose was crooked, and he didn't bother to pay attention to Zhu Qing anymore, desperately wanting to kill the little black dog. The human sovereign stood there with a cold face and sweat. Since the very first shot, he hadn't made a move. In his opinion, although the dragon clan is strong, gathering the power of all the royal clan and the guards here is enough to kill the red dragon. What he needs to deal with now is the guy who can perform holy arts. When he turned his head, human sovereign's gaze became icy cold. He never considered asking Yang Kai to observe the holy tree, and it was just a convenience to lead him here, because the closer he was to the holy tree, the stronger his power would be. In the smog, it is impossible to distinguish the north, south, east, and west. Yang Kai was able to move forward following the ubiquitous induction in the dark. He could feel the location of the holy tree, and that feeling made him kind, not unfamiliar at all, as if he had had a similar experience. The closer the distance, the more obvious this feeling is. Finally, after crossing the barriers, Yang Kai came to a towering tree, and the dense mist seemed to suddenly disperse, exposing everything around him. This is an extremely magnificent ancient tree with dense branches and leaves spreading out in a crown. Looking up, the branches and leaves cover the entire sky. The huge tree crown is like an infinitely broad chest, which can provide strong protection against all wind and rain. Yang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle point, staring blankly at this towering ancient tree. His thoughts were flying, and the sound of war and battle rang in his ears, and the scene of blood and flesh flying in front of his eyes. His lips trembled slightly, and he stretched out his hand to touch the trunk of the tree. The feeling of incomparable familiarity enveloped him all at once. Yang Kai couldn't help laughing. How could it be you, Senior Qing? Suddenly, he felt as if he had returned to that ancient world again. The first time he came to that Shuangshe city and saw Qing, his soul was shocked as if it was yesterday, and he vividly remembered it. Back then in the Frost Snow City, the royal city of the Frost and Snow Department, the evergreen sacred tree stood on the ground like this, protecting the entire city from natural disasters and man-made disasters. On the final battlefield of the Human-Devil War, he supported the last hope of the human race with his own strength. This friendly atmosphere, the countless tree holes in the trunk, are exactly the same as the evergreen sacred tree back then. It can be said to be exactly the same. This is definitely the evergreen sacred tree. Yang Kai believes that he will not be wrong. There may be other trees in this world that can be so magnificent, but this familiar atmosphere will not change. He lived in the tree hole for a long time back then. Yang Kai didn't expect that the so-called sacred tree in this human imperial city was actually Qing. Shouldn't Qing be dead? In order to block the passage between the two realms, Qing gave up her life to become benevolent, bursting out all the essence accumulated in her life, growing vigorously from the earth, reaching the demon realm, and blocking the entrance of the demon realm to the star realm with her own sacrifice. In that battle, millions of troops fought to the death in the wilderness, sacrificing their lives and forgetting themselves. In that battle, countless strong men died and their souls flew away, and their corpses piled up into mountains. Dai said that everything experienced in the Thousand Fantasy Dreamland has traces of reality. So the 2 years that Yang Kai stayed in the Thousand Illusions Dreamland were illusions based on a certain period in ancient times. In other words, there was indeed such a shocking battle in a certain period in ancient times, but in the real world, there was no Yang Kai in that battle, but there were countless existences similar to Yang Kai, which allowed the barbarians to win the final victory. Qing undoubtedly exists. He is the biggest contributor to the victory of the barbarians and the key to turning the tide of the battle. This will not change whether it is in the illusion or in reality. There is an astonishing intersection between the history of hundreds of thousands of years ago and today's trajectory, which makes Yang Kai feel a little dazed. But soon he found out that something was wrong, because there was only a hazy and chaotic will in the holy tree, like a newborn baby, without its own thinking. When he came into contact with the holy tree, this will obviously sensed Yang Kai's existence, and opened his heart to accept his existence without any defense. In an instant, Yang Kai and the sacred tree in front of him had an indescribable resonance, as if they were connected to each other. Yang Kai's face was slightly startled, because he felt a vast sea-like energy from inside the holy tree. The energy was so huge that it was comparable to any great emperor, and even surpassed it. It is by mobilizing these energies that the royal family of human imperial city can perform holy arts and form killing moves far beyond their true level. And at this moment, if he is willing, he can also vent this surging power. The sacred tree has no resistance to him, but accepts his existence very kindly. Yang Kai suddenly frowned, and noticed that there was an unharmonious factor in the holy tree, which made him feel like a pustules growing on his body, which made people feel very uncomfortable. Get out! Yang Kai yelled, suddenly poked his hand into the inside of the holy tree, and grabbed something suddenly. With another effort, a figure was staggered and pulled out from the inside of the holy tree. This person was the human sovereign who had just separated. His face was horrified, as if he didn't expect such an encounter. His whole head was a little dazed, and he didn't wake up until he met Yang Kai's icy cold eyes. With a pinch formula in his hand, the curse sounded in his mouth, and he stretched out his hand towards Yang Kai. Carrot. Chapter 2965. You lose. A sharp green awl shaped like an awl, poking straight at Yang Kai's chest. Yang Kai stood on the spot and looked at him coldly. A layer of dark green light suddenly appeared on the surface of his body, turning into a layer of strong protection. The green light poked on the protection and collapsed at the same time. How could it be? Human sovereign was surprised. Yang Kai was able to display the holy art, and he naturally knew that he could mobilize the power of the holy tree. After all, he is also a witch, and a witch can display the holy art. But without being baptized by some kind of ritual, why would the holy tree automatically protect him? The reason why the princes and princesses were able to get shelter and turn danger into safety in times of crisis was that they had gone through an extremely complicated baptism ceremony. The holy tree at this moment feels very strange. On the one hand, it does not refuse the emperor's drive, but on the other hand, it is hindering his killing the enemy, like a disobedient child who does it rashly. How happy he is. You really want to kill me? Yang Kai sneered, obviously expecting this. Human sovereign didn't speak, his expression became solemn, and as soon as the curse in his mouth changed, a thunderous fury blasted towards Yang Kai. The thunder was terrifying, like a dragon shaking its head and tail, and blasted in front of Yang Kai in the blink of an eye. Blooming dazzling light completely enveloped Yang Kai. The emperor's expression changed again. When the light faded away, Yang Kai stood there unscathed, not even a trace of wrinkles in his clothes. Why? Human sovereign roared, but instead of directing at Yang Kai, he turned to the sacred tree, as if a majestic father was scolding a playful child, furious. The holy tree ruined his good things twice, which made him a little unbearable. Yang Kai said indifferently, "Want to know why?" The human sovereign shouted, "What trick did you use?" Yang Kai hummed, "Don't you know if I have used means? Why deceive yourself?" Human sovereign gritted his teeth and said, "I am human sovereign, how dare you disobey me?" I don't know whether this was said to Yang Kai or to the holy tree. He shouted loudly, and the curse sounded again in his mouth. When his incantation sounded, the holy tree suddenly trembled, as if there had been some strange changes. Then large streams of green energy flowed out from the holy tree and poured into the human sovereign's body, making his momentum rise steadily, and his not-so-tall body suddenly became majestic. "Kill the chicken to get the eggs. You are presumptuous." Seeing this, Yang Kai was furious and began to chant the incantation, but the sound of the incantation sounded more ancient and obscure than the emperor's, and more mysterious and incomprehensible. Although he didn't know what kind of witchcraft the human sovereign was using, he could sense something invisible to the naked eye from the induction of the holy tree. The human sovereign's move would damage the foundation of the holy tree, and it was like killing a chicken to get its eggs. It seemed that he couldn't care less about dealing with Yang Kai. The foundation of the sacred tree is shaken, and the human imperial city may suffer disaster. The green energy flowing towards the emperor seems to have encountered some kind of resistance, and the speed began to slow down. Seeing this, the human sovereign became even more angry and cursed louder and louder, wanting to compete with Yang Kai for the power of the sacred tree. Yang Kai looked at him coldly, his tone of voice remained unchanged, keeping his heart. The two stood face to face like this. There was no sword, or bloody storm, but a very special way to fight. The winner would take everything, and the loser would be trampled underfoot. And the key to all of this lies in the resonance with the holy tree. The deeper the resonance with the holy tree, the stronger the power that can be driven. Both Yang Kai and human sovereign knew this, so they didn't attack each other, they just did their own thing well. The holy tree doesn't have a clear mind, it's just a remnant of will, sticking to the will of protecting the witch. No matter which witch asks for power from it, it will cooperate. The green light on human sovereign's body was bright and sometimes weak. When it was bright, it meant that he had a slight advantage in the fight, and when it was weak, it was the opposite. He suddenly discovered that Yang Kai was an extremely difficult opponent, far less easy to deal with than he thought before. This guy's sympathy with the holy tree is not inferior to him, the emperor who has been living beside the holy tree since he was a child. If it weren't for this, he would have eliminated the other party long ago, instead of the two sides fighting to a tie now. Shungshu seemed to have a very special kindness towards this outsider, favoring him everywhere, and opposing himself tit for tat. He suddenly realized that it was a mistake to let Yang Kai come here to observe the sacred tree at close range. If he had killed the killer just now in the human emperor's palace, it might not be so troublesome. I am the emperor, I am the king of the human race. The human sovereign roared in his heart, hoping that this idea could be passed on to the holy tree, but he didn't want to have the opposite effect. He obviously felt that the holy tree actually had some intentions to reject him, as if a troubled child who had been taught by his father gave birth to a rebellious heart. This phenomenon made his face change wildly. Although Yang Kai is difficult to deal with, there are more or less solutions, but if he loses the support of the sacred tree, then he is just an old man at the second level of Emperor Senior, and there are countless people who are stronger than him in the imperial city. Human sovereign didn't dare to think about it anymore, he could only start with Yang Kai himself. While chanting the incantation, he suddenly sent a voice transmission. You have time to compete with me here, why don't you take the time to care about your woman? If I guessed right, she should be dying now, right? What about the dragon clan? What about the leader of all spirits? Strong people emerge endlessly in the human emperor city, and the dragon clan will also suffer here. Yang Kai was unmoved, and said lightly, my woman doesn't need me to care, you should worry about yourself. Tisk tisk, I am not young, it seems that I can't live for many years, I have thought about when to pass on. Do you want to go down? I think there are a few princes who are not bad, especially the third prince, who is well cultivated and has a tough heart. He is very suitable to inherit your position as emperor, but it feels a little sinister, but no one is perfect. Well, the second princess is not bad. I don't know if there is any precedent for a woman to be the emperor in human imperial city. If there is, you can pass on the second princess. I think His Royal Highness is very ambitious. Shut up, the emperor shouted angrily. Yang Kai chuckled and said, none of them. It seems that the Lord intends to pass on the position of the first prince. The first prince is addicted to wine and sex, and he is really not a good candidate. If the human imperial city falls into his hands, it will be nothing. As a result, when the time comes, the brothers will turn against each other and bring disaster to Xiaochang, and the Lord will surely die without peace. No, the eldest prince is obviously a piece of mud that cannot support the wall, but he has an identity as tall as 8 leaves. From this point of view, the Lord is really you really favor the first prince, so could it be that the first prince's biological mother is someone you love so much, that's why you love the house so much? Human sovereign's expression has changed a bit, although it is slight. How could he hide it from Yang Kai? Yang Kai continued to fan the flames and said, it seems that I have hit the spot, and looking at the adults like this, the person you love is probably already dead. I can't see that the adults are still the seeds of infatuation, presumably when they were young. I had a good time with that beauty, but the dead cannot be brought back to life. My lord, please accept my condolences. Memory is also a kind of beauty, and it is also a good experience to dream back at midnight occasionally with tears in your chest. Human sovereign's face twitched, as if he had been stabbed in some sore spot. He could no longer bear it, and twitched the power of the holy tree frantically. Yang Kai snorted coldly, you lost. When the words fell, human sovereign snorted and took a few steps back. The only faint green light on his body suddenly disappeared. The resonance between him and the holy tree was suddenly cut off. He wanted to connect to the holy tree again, but it was like a stone sinking into the sea, and the holy tree didn't respond at all. He knew that his mood fluctuated too much just now, and he was eager for success, but he was completely defeated in this battle. Even without the blessing of the sacred tree, so what? My cultivation is higher than yours. Human sovereign did not want to admit defeat. His old body straightened up suddenly, and the cultivation of Emperor Zun's second-level realm burst out in full force. Shooting towards Yang Kai, the situation was turbulent for a while, and its power was unpredictable. Yang Kai sneered, and punched forward with a fist. The god Yuan of that fist surged, and the violent power vented out. When fists and palms intersected, human sovereign seemed to be severely wounded. He opened his mouth to spurt blood, flew out like a kite, and fell heavily to the ground. There was no movement for a long time. The sound of footsteps came, and Yang Kai walked slowly in front of him, looking down at him. The human sovereign swallowed the hot blood in his throat, stood up tremblingly, and roared, I am the human sovereign, I am the king of the human race, how can you treat me like this? Do you know why you lost? Yang Kai asked lightly. Human sovereign was stunned for a moment, wanting to know the answer very much, but couldn't get rid of his face. He hesitated for a long time before saying stiffly, why? Those who have attained the Tao will be helped a lot, but those who have lost the Tao will be given little help. You regard the sacred tree as a source of power that can be drawn at will, and regard it as a capital that surpasses all living beings. You are wrong. The emperor said, the holy tree is such an existence. Yang Kai snorted coldly. It's stubborn, it's justifiable if you don't know your mistakes, and it's not a pity to die if you know you're wrong. It's not your royal family or witches that are blessed by the holy tree, but the entire human race. Treating it as your own private property is simply ridiculous. The emperor said, nonsense. Yang Kai sneered, I'm talking nonsense. The enchantment formation of the entire human imperial city is powered by the holy tree, which protects the entire human imperial city from the interference of external laws. Am I talking nonsense? I think you are old and dim. After resonating with the holy tree, Yang Kai clearly felt that the power of the holy tree filled the entire human imperial city, And it was by relying on it that the human imperial city could remain unchanged and last forever in this wheel world. The human sovereign said dejectedly, "What's the point of saying this now? The sovereign has already been defeated, whether to kill or scrape according to your will." Yang Kai squinted at him and said, "When did I say I was going to kill you?" Human sovereign was startled, and said in surprise, "Are you willing to let me go?" "That depends on your performance." The human sovereign hesitated for a moment, and said, "I don't know, what is your request?" In this case, even if the person in front of him wanted to seize the position of emperor, he would be powerless to resist. Since ancient times, this has been the case in human emperor city. The person who controls the sacred tree is the human emperor, but now the person who controls it is an outsider. Chapter 2966 The Secret of the Wheel World. Many thoughts flashed through my mind. The human sovereign was already mentally prepared to bargain with Yang Kai, and secretly planned that if this guy made any excessive demands, it would not be impossible to succumb to them, as long as he did not snatch the position of human sovereign. Other everything is negotiable. Stabilize him first, and then slowly find a way to deal with him. Tell me about the history of this man's imperial city and the world of runners. Huh, what? Human sovereign was a little dazed, wondering if he heard it wrong. Now people are the chopping board and I am the fish. The outsider in front of him can do whatever he wants, but he didn't expect him to make such a request. Human sovereign was ready to be cut off, but the other party just had his hair plucked. No, this is not even plucked. Are you really old? Are you blind and deaf? Yang Kai looked at him coldly, dissatisfied with his reaction. Human sovereign finally confirmed that the other party really only made such a simple request, and secretly speculated about Yang Kai's intentions, and at the same time sorted out his thoughts, and said, "Since your honor wants to know, then this emperor." Yep, then just talk about it casually. Human sovereign's face was a little embarrassed. He always acted according to his face. He never thought that one day he would actually act according to other people's face. What I know is limited. If there is something unknown, please don't blame me. Yang Kai waved his hand and said, "Stop talking." The human sovereign coughed dryly, and then said, "Speaking of it, the wheel realm is actually a part of the star realm." Of course, the star realm wasn't called the star realm at that time, and I don't know exactly what the ancestral land was called. The ancestors called themselves barbarians, and witchcraft prevailed, and the clansmen gathered in one place, living and multiplying in tribes, and although there were internal struggles, the human clan was also prosperous. As he spoke, he quietly looked at Yang Kai's expression, and found that Yang Kai's expression became a little strange, as if he was remembering something. He didn't know which words he said touched his nerves, but he didn't dare to stop, and continued. Suddenly one day, the sky collapsed, and a huge hole appeared in the sky. Strong men came out of the hole and invaded the barbarians. And the strong men who came from unknown places called themselves demons. There were many strong demons, and they were murderous. Many tribes suffered heavy casualties. Facing a powerful enemy, the ancestors naturally did not want to stand still and resisted with all the strength of the barbarians. The battle between the two clans was extremely fierce. The battle seemed to have been fought for many years. Both the barbarians and the demons suffered heavy casualties, and the battlefield at that time was the current world of runners. Yang Kai said unexpectedly, "The wheel-running world is a battlefield. Then, as you said, why did the wheel-running world separate from the star world?" The emperor said, "I don't know. The reason why the ancestors won that battle seems to be related to the holy tree. According to the records in the ancient books, the holy tree sacrificed its life and blocked the passage of the demons' invasion. Knowing what happened, the conflict between the laws of the star realm and the demon realm raged, and the entire battlefield was exiled into the void, thus the birth of the wheel realm. The surviving humans and demons in the battlefield have been after living here. The two races fought fiercely with each other at the beginning, but the laws of this place are extremely weird, which caused my human race to suffer a lot. The laws of the runner world will change. It is almost the same. At that time, my human race could walk freely without being affected by the law, but for a certain period of time, it was in common with the demon realm. The aura of heaven and earth was transformed into demonic energy, making it difficult for the human race to move. In the end, we relied on the holy tree and gradually established the human emperor. City, let the race have a foothold. It has been hundreds of thousands of years in a flash. Yang Kai nodded slightly, looking at the towering ancient tree with complicated eyes. Qing is still alive, although he is not the wise old man back then, but he is indeed still alive, with the last sliver of will remaining, and he still uses his body to protect the remaining human races. Without him, there would be no human race left in this wheel world place. Because when the laws of heaven and earth suitable for the survival of demons exist, demonic energy prevails, and human beings cannot survive at all. On the other hand, the demons are not subject to any restrictions. They have lived in that harsh environment for a long time, and they will naturally not be affected in a better environment. The information revealed by the human sovereign corroborates his experiences in the Thousand Illusions dreamland, which shows that the human sovereign did not lie, nor did Dai lie, but the reality is not exactly the same as the illusion, at least the illusion experienced by Yongkai has not changed. The birth of the wheel world, and Qing also completely died in that battle. I don't know if Dai's record is wrong. So, the wheel-running realm is actually in a gap in space? Yongkai asked with a frown. The human sovereign nodded and said, "That's right, the ancestors also had a lot of guesses about the location of the wheel realm, but they basically believed that this world was in a gap, and this gap was located in the middle of the star realm and the demon realm. That's why the laws of this world are changeable, sometimes affected by the laws of the astral world, and sometimes filled with the laws of the magic realm, polarized." Yongkai nodded slightly, and many doubts were explained. When he was swallowed by the cold wave in the frozen soil before, Yongkai felt the fluctuation of the law of space. Thinking about it this way, the cold wave is actually just a space entrance. Through that entrance, he can enter the wheel world, similar to passing the law of space. The transmission of the formation will naturally have fluctuations in the laws of space. It's just that this teleportation is not a teleportation between cities, nor is it a teleportation across domains, but a teleportation across interfaces. Haven't you ever thought of leaving the wheel-running world and returning to the star world? Yongkai asked. Human Sovereign smiled awkwardly, and said, "The ancestors also thought about it, but how strong is the space barrier? Don't say you can't find it, even if you find it, who can break it?" At this point, Human Sovereign's face suddenly changed slightly. Hesitating, looking at Yongkai cautiously, said, "Your honor seems to be proficient in the power of space." He had asked Yongkai before, why he could enter the human emperor city without the human emperor seal. Yongkai showed the power of space law in front of him. Although Human Sovereign is old, his eyesight is not bad, so he can see through it at a glance. If this person, maybe he can really break the barrier of space. Thinking of this, Human Sovereign's mood suddenly became a little irritable. Yongkai looked at him thoughtfully and said, "You don't seem to want to leave here." A trace of embarrassment appeared on the face of the human emperor, and he said in a deep voice, "Leaving this world and returning to the ancestral land is the last wish of our ancestors. Naturally, this old man also wants to leave this place." Yongkai sneered. "What nonsense are you talking about with your eyes open?" Human Sovereign is aloof, and his words follow the law. No matter how strong or weak in Human Sovereign city, he will obey orders. If I were you, I wouldn't want to leave here. How happy and comfortable I am here. Human Sovereign laughed a few times, obviously being caught by Yongkai's words. He is not too strong, but he also has self-knowledge. If he really leaves the wheel world and returns to the star world, he will be beaten back to his original form in a flash. Yongkai changed the subject and said, "There is really no way to leave this world." Without waiting for him to answer, Yongkai said, "You'd better tell the truth, although I don't really want to kill an old man, but if I have to, if not, there will be no mercy." The Human Sovereign's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly said, "Yinfeng Mountain." "Where is Yinfeng Mountain? From Yinfeng Mountain, can we leave the world of runners?" The Emperor said, "There is only one possibility, and I can't guarantee it. Of course, for a strong man like you, if you don't have the power of space to defend yourself, it's just a dead end. The ancestors tried everything to get out of here. I tried many methods, but all failed. I finally determined that there might be a way to leave on the Yinfeng Mountain. Of course, it is only possible, but that place is extremely dangerous. Triple mirrors can't go too deep either. Cold air." Yongkai raised his brows, keenly grasping a key point. "What kind of cold air?" The Emperor said, "The cold air that extinguishes all vitality." Yongkai's eyes lit up. "Isn't this the cold air in the frozen ground?" It seems that the old guy is not lying, then Yinfeng Mountain may really be able to leave the world of runners. It is impossible for the cold air in the permafrost to come to the world of runners for no reason, after all, they are two interfaces. But in fact, there is cold air on Dianfeng Mountain, which means that the cold air in the permafrost has entered the runner world through a certain entrance. If the trace of this entrance can be reversed, a way to return to the star world can be found. However, there is also demonic energy mixed in the dark wind, which means that the entrance is not only connected to the star realm, but also connected to the demon realm, and the demonic energy in the demon realm can also be vented in. Therefore, a certain location in Dianfeng Mountain should be the spatial intersection of the wheel realm, the star realm and the demon realm. The cold air alone is terrifyingly powerful, and with the evil energy in it, it can indeed stop the Emperor's three-layer mirror. No wonder for so many years, no one from the human race has been able to leave the wheel world. The human sovereign watched from the side, and saw Yang Kai's expression on his face, but he couldn't guess what he was thinking. He was happy, but he didn't move at all on the surface. With a persuasive look, "Do you want to take risks?" "Excuse me," I said bluntly, "Dianfeng Mountain is not a good place to go. Even if your lord really finds a way to leave, he might not be able to return to the star realm, and he might accidentally enter the demon realm. If that's the case, he will be dead forever." Yang Kai patted him on the shoulder, patted human sovereign short, grinned and said, "Don't you wish I could die sooner? If you have any thoughts in your heart, you can say it outrightly, so you can hide it and say irony, look disgusting." Human sovereign looked embarrassed, cursed in his heart, and couldn't say anything more. However, Yang Kai made up his mind and stroked his palms. "Go to Dianfeng Mountain." The emperor was startled. I will go too." "You want to go?" Yang Kai squinted at him. The emperor shook his head vigorously. "If you don't want to go, why bother to ask?" Yang Kai sneered, then changed the topic. "Do you know why they didn't kill you?" The human sovereign wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said in a trembling voice, "Please enlighten me." Yang Kai turned his head and glanced at Qing, and said, "Save your life, manage the imperial city well, don't embarrass your ancestors, you people are saved by Qingxi." To be continued. Chapter 2967 The Sky is Beyond the Sky. Yes. A novel AIIA unknown currency I. Human emperor is obedient, how can he still look aloof before, deprived of the support of the sacred tree, and his own strength is not good, so he can only pretend to be a grandson with his tail between his legs. Just wondering, who is Qing? Could it be the holy tree? But why didn't he know about this kind of thing? Let's go out. Yang Kai greeted with some disinterest, stretched out his hand and patted Qing's tall tree trunk, then turned and walked towards the layman. The emperor followed closely behind, following suit. Walking out of the mist and returning to the palace, the sound of fierce confrontation immediately came to my ears, mixed with howls and roars occasionally. The fight was quite fierce. Yang Kai swept his eyes, and found that there were people lying on the ground in disorder, and more than 20 princes and princesses were lying on the ground. Most of them had broken arms and legs, and a few of them looked injured. It was quite heavy, and there was a big pool of blood around him, and I didn't know if he was dead or not. As for the guards who have been guarding the sacred tree, they were basically beaten and climbed down halfway. At this moment, in the sky, a 30-foot-long red dragon figure was entangled in the sky, spraying out mouthfuls of scorching dragon breath. A series of exquisite dragon secret arts bloomed, beating the ants like humans around them and fleeing. Seeing this, the human sovereign was taken aback, and the shock could not be concealed in his eyes. Although he knew that the dragon clan was not easy to mess with, he never expected it to be so powerful. Basically, all the strong men he can mobilize have been gathered here, and there is still no way to take a dragon, but the casualties are heavy, and the battle situation in the sky is obviously not optimistic. Although the red dragon is huge and has obvious goals, every time the power of the attacks is terrifying, and those who can still move will either die or be injured. In the blink of an eye, 2 more Emperor Senior stages were sprayed by the dragon's breath, and they fell from the sky covered in fire. "Stop! Stop!" Human sovereign shouted hastily. The princes and daughters who were still able to move and the guards all retreated after hearing the words, widening the distance between them and Zhu Qing. They were stunned again when they saw Yang Kai and human sovereign. Because at this moment, Yang Kai was actually standing in front of the human sovereign, and the aloof human sovereign was standing 3 steps behind him like a follower, with an expression of unprecedented anxiety. "Father," the second princess whispered, "she has the cultivation base of the 2nd level of Emperor Senior, the strongest cultivation base among princes and princesses, and has been entangled with the little black dog all the time, and did not directly confront Zhu Qing. So the injury was not too serious, but she looked a little embarrassed, her clothes were tattered, and the spring was leaking out. She looked at the emperor in surprise, and wanted to ask what was going on, but she couldn't say it anyway. You bastard! The emperor was furious, without any warning, and he stunned everyone for a moment. These two are the guests of the emperor, and you are not good at entertaining them, but you have conflicts with the guests. What's the point? I simply don't take this emperor seriously. The audience was silent, and the second princess felt dizzy even more. Is this not wrong? The reason why they acted was entirely because they were ordered by the human emperor to unite everyone's strength to take down the dragon clan, but in just a blink of an eye, their father emperor actually gave another completely different plan. Rhetoric. Is this still the emperor? On the contrary, the third prince was quick to see the opportunity, and quickly knelt down and said, "Father, calm down, I am just waiting for a moment to learn from the guests, and I have no intention of neglecting it." Discussion. Human sovereign had a sullen face, secretly looked at Yang Kai, and found that this guy looked indifferent, and raised his hand and patted the third prince. He slapped the third prince hard on the chest and sent him flying, bleeding profusely in midair. The human sovereign shouted angrily, "Are there any of you who are competing with each other? To actually bully the few with the more, it is really embarrassing to my royal family." Regardless of the serious injury, the third prince climbed up and knelt down again, tremblingly said, "Father, please calm down, I know I was wrong. I wait until I know my mistake." Those princes, princesses and guards immediately knelt down, even the two three-story mirrors of Emperor Zun. It is absolutely impossible to see this kind of thing outside. The emperor's three-story mirror is high above, which one is not a tyrannical one placed outside? How could he kneel down to someone whose cultivation base was weaker than his own? But it is commonplace in this human imperial city. Neglect the guests, fight, and just admit your mistake. Don't be too naive. Human emperor had a cold face, with a stern and selfless look. It seems that you have lived in peace for a long time, and you don't know that there is a sky beyond the sky, and there are people beyond people. Quote. The second princess opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but was stared back by the human emperor, not to mention how wrong she was. In this human imperial city, the royal family is the sky. Where is there any other world? Upper class. These bastards have blind eyes, but they dare to attack Madame Zun. I don't know how I want to deal with it. It's up to Zun to kill or kill, and I will never interfere. Human sovereign turned his head and looked at Yang Kai sincerely. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. Even the third prince who had guessed was dumbfounded, never expected that the emperor would be so polite to this outsider, even to the point of begging for perfection. What happened there just now? Why did the emperor's attitude change so much? How could he call himself old man? Although he couldn't guess it, the third prince had a vague feeling that something terrible must have happened just now, otherwise the emperor would not be so humble. Yang Kai sneered, looked up at the graceful figure in the sky, and said loudly, "Has Qing'er ever been injured?" Zhu Qing has recovered her human form, and slowly shook her head upon hearing this. If it weren't for the Dragon Clan, facing so many powerful enemies, she would never be able to retreat completely. But after turning into a giant dragon, she has amazing defense. Even with one enemy, she would not be at a disadvantage. Injuried. Yang Kai smiled, turned his head to look at human sovereign and said, "Then it's nothing, it's just a discussion." The human sovereign was extremely excited. "Your Majesty, I am very grateful." He was really afraid that Yang Kai would not let go of this matter, and secretly rejoiced that the Dragon Clan's cultivation was advanced, otherwise there would be absolutely no way to be kind this time. Still getting out, a bunch of shameless things. Human sovereign turned his head and yelled at the crowd. The princes, princesses, and the guards resigned one after another like a dream, and they did not forget to pick up the wounded on the ground and take them away before leaving. The little black dog came out of nowhere, and while the second princess was restless, he bit her chest. The second princess turned pale with shock, and raised her hand to take a picture. "Huh," the emperor snorted coldly. The palm that the second princess slapped froze in the air. The little black dog became more and more courageous, and directly tore off a large piece of her chest clothes, exposing the pink obscene clothes inside, and happily ran aside, with its tail high get up, as if avenging some deep hatred, very proud. The second princess turned pale, her hands quickly covered her chest where the spring was leaking, her face flushed, she stomped her feet in resentment and stepped back. "Let your honor make a joke." Human sovereign was extremely embarrassed. He used to think that the princes and daughters of himself were not bad, but today they looked more and more hateful. Yang Kai said lightly, "My husband and I will stay in the palace for a while." Human sovereign didn't want to, but he couldn't refuse, so he could only say, "It doesn't matter how long your honor wants to stay. Don't worry, I won't be staying for long, and I'll leave when I'm ready." The human sovereign dared not answer, and at this time, too many words would be lost. In addition, I need all the information on the Zhuanlin realm and Yinfeng mountain, please send it to me as soon as possible. Yes, there is one more thing that needs your help. There is a dragon clan and a human being who came to the wheel world together with us. I hope the emperor can help to pay attention. If there is any news, please let me know as soon as possible. Your Majesty, don't worry, after the law of heaven and earth changes, I will send people out to search immediately. It's so good. An hour later, in an extremely luxurious palace, Yang Kai hugged Zhu Qing lightly, and sat on a spacious chair. Zhu Qing sat on his lap, and the little black dog napped beside him. Speaking of which, this wheel world is really strange. If you want to leave this place, you can only pass through the Yinfeng mountain. Zhu Qing asked softly. Yang Kai held her soft hand and played with it gently. Zhu Qing's hands were very beautiful. I hadn't noticed them before, but now I found out after the intimacy. This pair of small hands were white and flawless, soft as if there were no bones. 10 fingers were slender, fingers if you peel the onion. It's hard to imagine how such a small hand can burst out with such terrifying power. Zhu Qing was so uncomfortable being played by him, she wanted to pull her hand back, but she didn't have the strength, so she could only stare at her with her eyes, which was special. Yang Kai pretended not to see it, continued to play, and said casually, "From the information we have now, Yinfeng Mountain is the only way out, and we can only go to that place." Zhu Qing worried, but the cold air is not easy to resist. We have never penetrated too deep into the frozen soil before, and no one knows what the cold air inside the frozen soil is like. If the cold air there comes from the deepest part of the frozen soil. Quote, maybe it would be difficult for Emperor Zun's 3-layer mirror to move an inch, and it would be frozen into ice cubes at the slightest touch. No matter what, I have to take a look, but I have to find Zhu Lai first. Actually, this place is pretty good. With the blessing of that holy tree, human emperor city can sit back and relax without worrying about any intrusion. If you can live here, you want to stay. Yang Kai was slightly stunned. Zhu Qing was about to speak when she suddenly felt something. Her face turned red, and she quickly stood up from Yang Kai's lap. Yang Kai pulled her back again. Someone is here. Zhu Qing was a little embarrassed. After all, she was just new to personnel affairs, and she was very thin-skinned. Seeing her insistence, Yang Kai didn't force her and let her go. After a while, an indifferent voice sounded from outside the hall. "The 2 adults are here, please see Fu Yu." The little black dog that had been lying on the ground suddenly raised its head and grinned viciously. In the previous battle, it had become enemies with Fu Yu, so when it heard the woman's voice, it became hostile. Come in. To be continued. Chapter 2968 Growing Taller. The door of the palace was pushed open, and several women entered in a file. All of them looked extraordinary, walked in a row with Fu Yu as the leader. A Section 1 novel, a section I less than AA less than A unknown currency I less than AAA unknown currency A unknown currency AA. Each of them held a large pile of ancient books in their hands. My lord, everything you want is here. Fu Yulo spoke with a look of reluctance, as if being forced to do something he didn't like. The fact is exactly the same. If it wasn't for the emperor's order, how could she come to do this kind of servant work? I don't know what Renwang is thinking. As for pleasing this outsider to this extent, she was dissatisfied and expressed it directly on her face. Let's put it down. Yang Kai glanced at the group of people, and found that most of these women looked familiar, and they were all princesses. Fu Yu looks the biggest, and the youngest one is only 14 or 5 years old. I haven't seen it in the hall before, but the 6-leaf body cannot be faked. The youngest princess was obviously very curious. Standing at the end of the line, she kept looking at Yang Kai with a pair of big eyes. Influenced by Fu Yu, she preconceived that Yang Kai was a heinous villain, but now she looked a little different, and she didn't have superficiality, and she didn't know why second sister hated him so much. Yang Kai glanced over and winked at her. The little princess was startled, quickly lowered her head and put down the things in her hands. Do you have any other orders? If not, let's go. Fu Yu looked at Yang Kai coldly, with a blunt tone and an expression of disbelief. Yang Kai glanced at her, deliberately embarrassing her, and waved his hand. Wait outside, I will call you if there is anything, don't bother me if there is nothing to do. Waiting. Fu Yu's eyes widened, almost suspecting that she had heard it wrong. It's humiliating for her to be the second princess of the imperial city, under one person and over 10,000 people, to give him classics, yet she dares to ask herself to wait outside. Do you really think that you are a servant who can be driven at will? Simply intolerable. His anger was almost exploding, but when he thought of the emperor's previous instructions, he felt as if he had been poured with cold water, and the monstrous flames of anger were extinguished in an instant, so he could only grit his teeth and say, yes. No matter what, she dared not disobey the emperor's orders. Several princesses slowly exited the hall, guarding the door with different thoughts. Except for the little princess, the rest of them obviously had resentment on their faces, thinking that such a thing should not be done by them. In the main hall, Yang Kai and Zhu Qing looked at the classics piled up on the table, each took one and began to read. These classics are basically records about the world of runners, half of which are the development history of the world of runners, and the other half are introductions to the customs and landforms of this world. The human race has stood here for hundreds of thousands of years, and this world is not too big, so basically except for the 10,000 li border around Manu City, which is forbidden by the human race, other places have been explored by the human race. These are royal treasures, and it is impossible for ordinary people to see them. For several days in succession, Yang Kai and Zhu Qing stayed behind closed doors in the palace, carefully flipping through these classics and collecting various information about this world. A few days later, Yang Kai rubbed his forehead, put down the last book in his hand, and fell into deep thought with his brows lightly clustered. Over there, Zhu Qing also finished watching at about the same time, and thoughtfully said, "It turns out that this world is really in the gap between the two worlds, in the gap between space." Yang Kai chuckled lightly. If it wasn't for this, there wouldn't be such a thing as changing the law of heaven and earth. It's really hard for them to survive and multiply in such a place. The holy tree has helped a lot. Holy tree. Yang Kai nodded slightly. It really helped a lot, not only protecting the entire human imperial city, but also leaving behind the inheritance of witchcraft. Yang Kai originally thought that the witchcraft of the royal family was passed down from generation to generation by the ancestors, so that the firewood of witchcraft would continue, but now it seems that this is not entirely the case. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the laws of heaven and earth have changed, and witchcraft in the star world has been gradually replaced by martial arts. Occasionally, the wheel realm shares the laws of the star realm, so naturally it is not suitable for practicing witchcraft. But the existence of Qing has allowed witchcraft to be passed down from generation to generation. Those royal families can only truly practice witchcraft if they practice in closed doors near Qing, feel Qing's power, and resonate with Qing. Without Qing's help, even if they mastered the cultivation method of witchcraft, the laws of heaven and earth would not allow them to cultivate the power of witchcraft. Qing is a hero of an era and a transmitter of the power of the entire ancient world. Without him, witchcraft would have perished long ago in the wheel world. It's a pity that in the desperate battle between humans and demons back then, his thinking has sunk, and now he is only left with a chaotic will, keeping the last wish before him, protecting the human race and witchcraft. I don't know if he has a chance to wake up again, but Yang Kai estimates that this chance is very slim, because hundreds of thousands of years have passed. If Qing can really wake up, he might wake up a long time ago, and he won't wait until now. And Yang Kai reckons that even if Qing can really wake up, he should not think of the past again, and he will get a new life. He also deserves a new life. The information of Yinfeng Mountain is also recorded in the classics, but it is quite rare, and only an approximate location is recorded. I don't know what the situation inside is, because the human race has never set foot in that ghostly place for hundreds of thousands of years. On the contrary, there are often demons staying around there, practicing with the help of the pure demon energy gushing out from Yinfeng Mountain. So if you really want to go to Yinfeng Mountain, you will definitely have conflicts with the demons. Yang Kai didn't care about this, anyway. He had subdued more than a dozen demon kings, driving them at will, and he knew all kinds of characteristics of the demons well. If they really met the demons, they would be the ones who suffered. There is no news of Zhu Lai from human sovereign yet. The laws of the outside world have changed, and the powerhouses of the entire human imperial city are frequently dispatched to search for information about Zhu Lai, but so far nothing has been found. Yang Kai and Zhu Qing are not too worried about Zhu Lai. Anyway, he is also an 8th rank red dragon, so it is not a dragon that is so prone to accidents. So the two are leisurely and content as landlords in the palace. On this day, Yang Kai suddenly woke up from meditation, his eyes lighted up slightly, as if excited. What's wrong? Zhu Qing didn't need to practice, she was holding a book and flipping through it. She raised her head and asked after noticing Yang Kai's movement. Qinger, I seem to have become stronger. Yang Kai said a little excitedly. Being strong is a good thing, why are you like this? Because I don't know why it becomes stronger. Which aspect? Bloodline. Yang Kai looked at Zhu Qing curiously. I don't seem to have done anything during this time, why can I feel that my bloodline has become stronger? The enhancement of the bloodline is obvious, because Yang Kai can feel that the original power of the golden sacred dragon has merged with him a little deeper. He has not practiced the dragon transformation art during this period of time, nor has he encountered any life and death battles. Powerful. The enhancement of strength has always required a certain amount of effort. I'll give it a try. In order to avoid any illusion, Yang Kai immediately let out a low growl, activating the dragon transformation art. When the high-pitched dragon chant sounded, the golden dragon disappeared in a flash. There was a burst of crackling, and there was a burst of fried beans-like explosions from the bones of his body. His figure suddenly rose, and the combed bun suddenly spread out, and the moment the dragon prestige filled the air, Yang Kai only felt itchy on his forehead, as if something was about to break his body out. The arms became longer, the hands turned into dragon claws, the clothes were torn, and the exposed skin was covered with a layer of strong dragon scales. He is used to all these things, and he knows what kind of changes will happen to him, so he concentrates on experiencing the changes in himself. When all the changes stopped, Yang Kai had already turned into a giant, exhaled lightly, and two white smoke-like airflows shot out from his nostrils. Zhu Qing sat on the chair, closed the book, and looked up at him. Yang Kai took a big step, walked around the hall, and said in surprise, "Hey, it seems to have grown a little taller." The previous battle with Zhu Lai in the Qingyang Temple allowed him to make a breakthrough in the dragon transformation art, and his body of 3 feet suddenly became 4 feet. But now this height has actually increased again, conservatively estimated to have reached 4 feet 5, this increase is not an illusion but real. Since practicing the dragon transformation art, Yang Kai has also vaguely grasped some key points. The deeper he cultivates this technique, the more thorough his fusion with the original power of the golden sacred dragon will be, and the more pure and high-end the blood of the dragon clan will be. Even the height, with the deepening of his cultivation, the half-dragon body is getting taller and taller. Yang Kai doubts that when he can really completely refine the original power of the golden saint dragon, he will be able to transform into a golden dragon and travel around the world. How tall were you before? Zhu Qing asked. Probably so. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and drew it, but fortunately the palace was built extremely grandly, otherwise he would really be unable to straighten his waist now. That means she has really become stronger. Zhu Qing pursed her lips and smiled. But why? Yang Kai wanted to scratch his face, but the dragon's claws caught the scales on his cheeks, and a string of sparks shot out. It's a good thing to become stronger, but it's not good if you don't know why. You have to figure out the reason before you can continue to work hard in this direction in the future. He carefully recalled the things he had experienced in the recent period, and found that there was nothing particularly worth paying attention to, and it was less than 2 months since the last breakthrough in the dragon transformation art, and Yang Kai could remember every bit of it clearly. I don't think I have any special experience. Zhu Qing lowered her head, her cheeks flushed red, she opened the book and continued to read, but her mind was not on it at all. Do you know something? Yang Kai noticed her strangeness and turned his head to look. Zhu Qing shook her head like a rattle, her face turned even redder. Speak quickly. Yang Kai walked up to her and knelt down. Even so, he was several times taller than Zhu Qing. Looking down at the little man, he felt extremely weird. It is estimated that after Zhu Qing turned into a giant dragon, her field of vision will also look like this. To be continued. Chapter 2969 is Eating People. I really don't know, Zhu Qing replied in a low voice. A1 novel A unknown currency A unknown currency A unknown currency I 1/4 A unknown currency A unknown currency. Is it related to the secrets of the dragon clan? Zhu Qing shook her head. Then tell me. Yang Kai stretched out his hand and carefully picked up Zhu Qing in his palm, as if he was holding some of the most exquisite porcelain, threatening, don't report if you know, be careful that my family will not serve you. What kind of family law? Zhu Qing stared wide-eyed, her face blank, but she soon realized what Yang Kai meant. She was so hot from shame, she raised her head and glanced at Yang Kai, and found that his eyes were straight, and his breathing began become rough. Sigh in my heart, know that it is a blessing or a disaster, and it is a disaster that cannot be avoided. Covering half of his face with a book, he whispered, "Everything bears yin and embraces yang, yin and yang intertwine, the origins converge, rush, the qi is harmonious." Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, then he showed a strange expression, and said with a half-smile, "You mean?" Zhu Qing's entire face was covered by the book, so people couldn't see her expression, but the pretty face behind the book must be burning like fire. She hurriedly said, "I said it casually, don't take it seriously. Dragon Clan also pay attention to dual cultivation." Yang Kai smiled even more happily, opening his mouth wide, looking extremely ferocious, as if he could swallow Zhu Qing in one gulp. "If this is the case, then the days to come will be too happy." "It's nothing, it's just." "Just what?" Yang Kai stretched out a paw, gently pushed away the book that blocked Zhu Qing, and moved his face closer, looking aggressive. Zhu Qing had nowhere to hide, and said with a troubled face, "It's just that even for your human daughters, Yuan, yin qi is also of great benefit to men's cultivation. The higher the cultivation level, the more obvious it is, let alone our dragon clan." Yang Kai Dao, "Are you saying that the reason why I did this is because of your first time?" Zhu Qing nodded lightly. She felt ashamed when Yang Kai said such words in front of her face. She wished she could find a hole to drill down. "It won't work anymore." "No." Zhu Qing shook her head. "I don't believe it," Yang Kai said while grabbing Zhu Qing and sprinting to the side. While striding forward, the dragon transformation art was retracted, and the huge figure shrank rapidly. "What are you doing?" Zhu Qing asked in surprise. "You'll know if it works if you try it." Yang Kai had already returned to his original appearance, hugging Zhu Qing by the waist. Lying on Yang Kai's chest, feeling the fiery temperature, Zhu Qing suddenly panicked, and hurriedly said, "It really doesn't work, I won't lie to you." Yang Kai giggled cheaply. "They all said to give it a try, don't struggle and resist, it's useless." When the words fell, Zhu Qing was thrown heavily on the big bed. Zhu Qing exclaimed, and Yang Kai rushed up like a vicious dog. Although Zhu Qing had such an experience before, Zhu Qing was still not used to it. A heart was beating violently in her chest, as if it was about to pop out of her mouth at any moment. The man on her body was very aggressive, with an indomitable aura of rampage, smashing her flimsy defense to pieces. Her clothes became messy. Zhu Qing tilted her head, her beautiful eyes were tightly closed, her hands were clutching the sheets, as if she was about to go to the execution ground. She was extremely nervous. Yang Kai suddenly seemed to hear something, turned his head and looked aside, pointed his hand, and said word by word, "Get out, go." The little black dog over there did not know when it was awakened. It had been dozing quietly for the past few days, neither noisy nor fussy. Direction, motionless, even holding his breath, watching carefully. The dog's eyes were full of curiosity and bewilderment. Hearing Yang Kai's words, it whimpered, stood up reluctantly, and walked slowly towards the door with its tail between its legs. When it came to the door, it turned back and looked at it. Its eyes were full of longing expressions, as if it was begging Yang Kai to let it stay. Yang Kai snorted. It could only open the door with its head dejectedly, walked out through the crack of the door, and knew to close the door when it was done. Outside the hall, several women of different ages stood there straight, and basically everyone could have a layer of frost on their faces. The princesses had had enough. A few days ago Yang Kai asked them to wait outside the palace, and they could only obey. "I didn't expect that this stay would last for several days. I didn't hear any summons in these few days, and Yang Kai didn't give any orders, but they could only stay outside obediently, sticking there like a wooden stake. They who have been pampered all the year round have never suffered such grievances." Everyone scolded Yang Kai bloody in their hearts, wishing that he would die early and be born early. Only the little princess was innocent, completely unaware of what happened. She only knew that her father had ordered them to come here, and she had to obey the man in the house and satisfy all his demands. She is still young, and her innocence has not been infected by this complicated royal family, so she doesn't feel wronged. She just stood there for a few days, sleepy and tired. Point a little, almost fell to the ground several times. When the little black dog came out, several princesses saw it, and immediately attracted the attention of all the girls, and they all looked at the little black dog. The second princess, Fu Yu, has a look of resentment. She still remembers the incident that this little beast made her lose her face a few days ago, so she naturally holds a grudge against it. Caught it, and then boiled a pot of dog meat for Dada Yaji. The little black dog obviously sensed something, turned his head and looked at Fu Yu, bared his teeth for a while, and made a threatening sound from his throat, ready to pounce. You little bastard still dares to be arrogant, one day he will kill you and eat meat. Fu Yu thought bitterly in her heart, as if she had foreseen that scene, and an inexplicable joy swept through her body. At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the hall. The princesses were startled, not knowing what had happened in the palace. You looked at me and I looked at you, with bewildered faces. The little princess who dozed off was also awakened, her eyes widened, she was more energetic than anyone else, and she hurriedly asked, "What's wrong?" No one paid attention to her, and the princesses were all listening. There was another scream, and now the girls could hear it more clearly, but the voice seemed a bit strange. It didn't sound like an accident, it was depressing, very low, it seemed. The faces of the princesses turned red, they obviously realized something, and they didn't have any intention to eavesdrop, but they wanted to plug their ears, so as not to let the sound dirty their ears. The suppressed voice became louder and intermittent, sometimes high-pitched and sometimes low-pitched, as if it was about to die. The little princess was startled, and said with a pale face, "What's the matter? The voice inside is so strange, is there something wrong? Should we go in and have a look?" This proposal made all the girls dumbfounded. The sixth princess standing next to the little princess hurriedly said, "Don't go in." Why can't you go in?" the little princess asked. The sixth princess stomped her feet and said, "Don't ask so many questions, children." Oh, the little princess nodded obediently. Although she didn't understand it, since the sixth sister said so, she must have a reason. She suddenly looked at the older sisters curiously, and said worriedly, "Second sister, sixth sister and 11th sister, why are your faces so red, are you sick?" The 11th princess glared at her, and said angrily, "What's wrong with you? When have we been sick?" But, the little princess stretched out her little hand worriedly, touched the sixth princess's cheek, then withdrew her hand in fright and said, "Sixth sister, your face is so hot, it's terrible, hurry up and ask father to take a look." Quote. The 11th princess glanced at the sixth princess, covered her mouth with a coquettish smile and said, "It's useless to ask father to look at sixth sister's matter." "Then who do you want to see?" The 11th princess pouted and said, "Just ask the man inside to come and see." After she finished speaking, she chuckled, her waist bent down when she laughed, and the flowers trembled for a while. "Then I'll ask him to come here." The little princess believed it, and started to rush into the hall, but she retreated timidly after only 2 steps, and said fearfully, "Is he killing people? I dare not go in." The 11th princess smiled even more happily, her peach blossom eyes sparkled, and she pointedly said, "It's not like killing people, it's just that he is eating people." Eat people. The little princess's face turned pale, and her face was as white as snow. The 11th princess frightened her and said, "The man inside is a murderer who does all kinds of evil. He likes to eat a girl with delicate skin and tender flesh like you. If you are caught by him, he will eat 10 of your fingers first, and then eat you, nose, and then bite off your ears." While talking, he chewed very vividly, as if he was really eating something, with relish. The little princess was terrified, and jumped into the arms of the sixth princess, shivering, and said in a trembling voice, "Sixth sister, save me, I don't want to be eaten, I don't want to be eaten by him." "What are you scaring her for?" The sixth princess glared at the 11th princess viciously. "Little sister has a simple mind, and she believes everything they say, so why are you scaring her?" The 11th princess shrugged her shoulders and said, "It's boring anyway, let's have some fun. Hey, this erotic drama, you can only listen to it but not take part in it, it's really boring." Fu Yu said coldly, "You can go in if you want, but I don't know if they want you." The 11th princess said, "Let's forget it, that guy is not easy to mess with, I am afraid that there will be no bones left after being eaten." Hearing this, the little princess believed her words more, hugged the sixth princess tightly, and cried, "Sixth sister, take me away, I don't want to be here anymore, father save me, woo woo woo." Fu Yu glanced at her, and said in a low voice, "Cover her ears." The sixth princess hastily stretched out her hand and covered the little princess's ears tightly. The voices in the hall kept coming. At the beginning, they were restrained, but in the end they became unscrupulous, which made the princesses feel uncomfortable. Fortunately, the little princess seemed tired after crying a lot after being frightened. The sister fell asleep in her arms, the tears were still there, which made the sixth princess feel distressed and angry, and felt that the man was really nothing. To be continued. Chapter 2970. Funny is not funny. It's really useless. A section A 1 yen novel A unknown currency A less than A less than A less than A. Yongkai looked at Zhu Qing on the bed speechlessly. He used the dragon transformation art again, but this time there was no special change. He still only had a body of 4 feet 5, and there was no sign of growing taller at all. Zhu Qing covered her snow-white delicate body with the quilt, frowned slightly and said, "I told you, why don't you believe me?" Thinking about it now, whether he believes it or not is not a problem, it's just that the man has become lustful and only wants to please him. Yongkai accepted the dragon transformation art, and said with a grin, "The number of times I have promised is less, if I do it a few more times, maybe." After speaking, he threw himself on the bed again. "Stop messing around." Zhu Qing stretched out her hand and pushed him away, with a serious look on her face. Dragon nature is inherently obscene. The more thoroughly the source merges with you, the more obvious it becomes. You need to restrain yourself. Since having a close relationship in the past few days, Zhu Qing has always been obedient these days, but now she is suddenly so serious and majestic, which makes Yongkai feel a little embarrassed, and always feels that she owes her what. It's not good to use force anymore, so I can only nod and say, "Okay, I will restrain myself." "But if you dragons are all like this, how will you live?" Zhu Qing said. "Only those male dragons look like this, and they won't be presumptuous to their fellow dragons on Dragon Island." Yongkai's eyes widened. Then what if they need it? Zhu Qing didn't want to answer this question, but knew she couldn't beat Yongkai, so she could only frown and said, "They have their own way." These words inevitably made Yongkai's imagination very large. Some extremely funny scenes appeared in his mind. He couldn't help laughing, and prepared to make fun of Zulai when he saw Zulai again. Zhu Qing stared at him and said, "Didn't I say that you are not allowed to touch me without my consent?" Yongkai said innocently, "Didn't you agree just now? I thought you agreed. Don't do this next time." Zhu Qing pinched Yongkai's arm fiercely to vent her dissatisfaction, and then began to dress. Yongkai supported his head with his hands and looked at her stupidly. "What are you staring at me for?" Zhu Qing blushed. "You are so beautiful." Yongkai's sweet words came out, "I can see it for a lifetime. I don't know how many women I've said this to." Zhu Qing's words carried a strong smell of jealousy. She quickly straightened her dress and looked around blankly. "Where's Ah Wang?" Quote. "It's guarding the gate." Yongkai pointed to the outside. It was only then that Zhu Qing remembered that the little black dog seemed to have been kicked out by Yongkai, and then remembered that there seemed to be a few princesses standing outside the door, and suddenly her face paled. "My performance just now was unbearable. I'm afraid it will make others listen to the truth. How can I face people now?" She was ashamed and annoyed. She reached out and grabbed Yongkai's ear, still standing up. Yongkai stood up, completely naked, although not burly, but his figure was extremely well proportioned, exuding a masculine aura. Facing the embarrassing Zhu Qing, he just laughed and pretended to be stupid. Zhu Qing shot him an annoyed look. Her gaze was erratic. She didn't look where she shouldn't look, picked up his clothes from the bed, and dressed him carefully. It was the first time for Long Nu to do this, so she was a bit unfamiliar. Men's clothes are always different from women's clothes, and she has never had the experience of serving others, not to mention that Yongkai is still facing her ****, which makes her feel restrained. After being busy for a long time, it gradually became better, and gradually dressed Yongkai neatly. She took Yongkai's hand and walked to the vanity mirror on the side, pushed Yongkai on the chair and sat down, carefully grooming his hair. Yongkai stared at the figure in the mirror with a smile. Seeing her serious and focused appearance, his vanity soared. Half a day later, the human sovereign came in a hurry, and when he got to the gate of the palace, he looked at his daughters in surprise. "Why are you standing outside?" Fu Yu pursed his lips and said, "He let us stay here." Human sovereign frowned. "Is this the case these days?" Fu Yu nodded slightly. The human sovereign sighed, with a look of disappointment in his eyes, but he didn't say much. He just said loudly, "My lord, the news you want to inquire about has some clues." The palace door was pushed open, and Yongkai and Zhu Qing walked out one by one. The emperor saluted, with a flattering smile on his face. Several princesses have different expressions. The second princess Fu Yu can't hide the contempt in her eyes, especially when she looks at Zhu Qing. The sixth princess lowers her head and can't see any expression, but the 11th princess winks like silk, looking like silk constantly. She looked towards Yongkai with great interest, as if she was secretly expecting something, but the little princess's face was pale, and she quietly hid behind sixth sister, her body trembling. The reaction of the women was clear to Yang Kai. He snorted coldly in his heart. He didn't have time to worry about it, he just looked at the emperor and said, "Let's listen to it." The emperor replied. Before a stick of incense, there was a sign of someone making a move from the Eagle's Beak Cliff. The people sent by the old man rushed to investigate immediately. The battle is over, and more than a dozen demons died, all of them were cultivated. Extraordinary. Who can do it now? Human Sovereign shook his head and said, "No, it's just that in this wheel world, all human races live in Human Emperor City, except for the two you mentioned. I'm afraid no one will stay outside, and they didn't kill more than a dozen demons. Strength. So the old man guesses that the person you are looking for is probably near the Eagle Beak Cliff." Yang Kai nodded, pondered and said, "Since that's the case, let's go and have a look." After hearing the words, the human emperor said, "The old man will make arrangements immediately, and let someone lead the way." "No need, I know the place, my husband and I will go and check it out on our own." In the past few days, Yang Kai had memorized the landforms of the Wheel Realm clearly, so when Human Sovereign mentioned Eagle Beak Cliff, he knew where it was. What's wrong? Those two must be careful. Yang Kai grinned. If it goes well, we may leave this world directly, and I would like to thank you for your hospitality in the past few days. Hearing this, the Human Sovereign was overjoyed. He wished that Yang Kai would leave early, lest his rule be in danger of being shaken. He was naturally elated after hearing this, but he quickly suppressed it, and said lightly, "The old man's hospitality is not good. Please bear with me, both of you." His face was nonsensical. Yang Kai didn't bother to fight with him, and was about to greet Zhu Qing to leave, when he suddenly caught a glimpse of Fu Yu still staring at Zhu Qing with disdain. His face was full of disdain, and he was a little annoyed. Turning his eyes, Yang Kai stretched out his hand and said, "Ah Wang, let's go." Woof. The little black dog stood up, barked at Fu Yu in a demonstrative manner, and then slowly walked towards Yang Kai. What did you say?" Yang Kai stared at the little black dog. Wow. The little black dog tilted his head, not knowing what kind of trouble Yang Kai was trying to make. "What? How can this be possible? Don't think too much, you bastard. It's just crazy." The little black dog was completely dumbfounded, and stood there stupidly. The dog's eyes were full of bewilderment. Yang Kai said self-consciously, "Being a human being requires self-knowledge, being a dog requires self-knowledge. Don't think about what you shouldn't think about, and don't talk about what you shouldn't say, understand? There's less loss here, otherwise you won't be recognized by others. Beat and eat dog meat." While speaking, he glanced leisurely at the emperor. A group of people were confused by him, and the princesses were even more dazed. Fu Yu frowned slightly, instinctively feeling that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. The Human Sovereign is a human being, and he quickly said with a sneer, "Master, I don't know what you want to do with this animal pet. If you don't mind, you can say it. If you can satisfy me, I will definitely be satisfied." Yang Kai laughed and said, "It's nothing, it made a very interesting request, you don't have to care about it." Human Sovereign slandered in his heart, but said on his mouth, "Since it's interesting, why not talk about it and listen to it?" Yang Kai pointed to Fu Yu and said, "This little bastard actually fell in love with the second princess, saying that he is very close to the second princess, and wants to take her away. You think this is funny?" The smile on Renwang's face suddenly froze, he didn't know how to answer, and a drop of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. Fu Yu turned pale even more, and exclaimed, "Impossible." Yang Kai's face turned cold, and said, "What is impossible?" Fu Yu panicked and said, How could it possibly look at me? It's clear that you are talking nonsense." Yang Kai snorted and said, "It's impossible for me to look up to you, but it just likes you. What can I do? This is probably the bastard looking at mung beans, right? If you don't believe me, you can ask yourself." Quote. How can I ask? Fu Yu was completely dumbfounded. She couldn't really ask the little black dog this question, although she was sure that Yang Kai was taking revenge on herself, but the current situation is stronger than others, and a bad one may be true. To be taken away, and become a plaything of a beast ever since. This kind of thing is more uncomfortable than killing her. How can she agree? "Father." She hurriedly looked towards Renwang, wanting to beg for help, but what she saw made her words stuck in her throat, because she saw her father frowning tightly. He looked thoughtful, as if he was considering whether to agree to this matter. In an instant, all thoughts were lost, and the whole person lost all strength. Father is really considering whether to give himself to that little beast. That's right, My father is so afraid of this pair of adulterers. If I can send them away safely, let alone a daughter, even if I send all the daughters here, I'm afraid they won't frown. Since ancient times, the royal family has no family affection, and they don't know what they are expecting. Human sovereign opened his mouth, and before he could speak, Yang Kai chuckled. Second princess is too worried, although Ah Wang likes you, but I can't take you away. Second princess will stay in human imperial city when you're princess. Fu Yu didn't answer. Her eyes stared at Yang Kai with incomparable resentment, as if she wished to eat his flesh and drink his blood. Look at the meaning of the second princess. Do you want to go with me? If that's the case, you can open your mouth, and this young master can consider it. Yang Kai raised the corner of his mouth. Fu Yu hurriedly lowered her head, not daring to look at him again, lest he cause any trouble again. Huh, human sovereign snorted coldly. At this time, he didn't know that Yang Kai was deliberately finding fault. He probably had something wrong with Fu Yu's eyes when he looked at the dragon girl just now. He stared at Fu Yu and said, "Why don't you come and thank you grown-ups?" Fu Yu didn't dare to disobey, so he could only step forward, saluted gracefully, and said in a low voice, "Thank you, sir." His arrogance has been worn away. To be continued. Chapter 2971. Hello, brother-in-law. Yang Kai and Zhu Qing wanted to leave through the space magic circle in the city, and human sovereign saw them off in person. A group of princes and princesses followed closely behind, and all the dignified people in the entire imperial city also came, dragging along a large group of people, making people who don't know the truth puzzled, wondering what the hell is going on. Along the way, human sovereign seemed to be very talkative and thoughtful, constantly telling Yang Kai what to pay attention to when he was outside. Yang Kai responded from time to time. After finally sending them to the space magic circle, the human sovereign secretly heaved a sigh of relief. As long as this guy leaves, the human imperial city will still be under his control in the future, and the rule of the royal family will not be shaken. He personally blessed Yang Kai and Zhu Qing with the emperor's seal, and ordered them to open the magic circle. When the teleportation light came on, human sovereign's hanging heart finally let go, and a relieved smile appeared on his face. Yang Kai's words completely shattered his good mood. Someday in the future, the Japanese may come here again, so I hope that adults can take good care of the sacred tree, and don't draw its power at will. The light came on, and Yang Kai and Zhu Qing disappeared. Renwang fell into an ice cellar, and the smile on his face became stiff. Many princes, daughters, and strong men in the city all sensed that the emperor was in a bad mood, and kept silent. After a long while, a strong aura erupted from the emperor's body, which turned into a wave of air and spread around. Spreading out, he seemed to have vented the anger in his heart, and his whole person became much older. Tens of thousands of miles away from human emperor city, in an extremely hidden jungle, deep in a cave, Yang Kai and Zhu Qing leisurely appeared. The cave is pitch black, and you can't see your fingers. There is only a slanted passage leading to the ground. In the cave, there is a simple teleportation circle connected to the circle in the city. There are more than a dozen people in the entire world of runners like this. There are so many places, covering almost half of the runner world. The warriors in human imperial city come and go repeatedly through these space magic circles. Each space magic circle is built extremely concealed, just for fear of being discovered by the demons and being destroyed. However, even if the demons really found these space magic circles, they could only destroy them. Without the blessing of the human emperor seal, they would not be able to enter the human emperor city through the magic circle. To a certain extent, this human emperor seal is a protection, a barrier in human imperial city, in this regard, is somewhat similar to the teleportation order made by Yang Kai himself. The space magic circle arranged by him can only be activated and used by wearing a special teleportation order. The two walked out of the hole and came to the ground. At this time, the laws of heaven and earth in the outside world are not abnormal, and it is obvious that the wheel world at this moment is leaning towards the astral world. Yang Kai, protect me. Zhu Qing didn't delay, and told Yang Kai to use the Dragon Clan's secret technique to find Zhu Lai's whereabouts. Huh, what are you calling me? Zhu Qing whispered. Husband. She had never called a man that way before, and she just felt her heart beating violently. A simple title seemed to connect the two of them closely, sharing life and death, honor and disgrace. Only then did Yang Kai show a satisfied expression. Zhu Qing stretched out her hand and scratched her palm. A drop of fiery red blood rolled down, like a burning flame, extremely hot. It melted into the ground and disappeared after falling on the ground. The obscure and complex incantation sounded, and Zhu Qing's face was sacred and solemn, as if praying to an unknown god, full of piety. Yang Kai had seen a similar scene once. It was the last time when Zhu Lai was performing a secret technique in the frozen soil, so he knew that the secret technique that Zhu Qing performed should be the one that Zhu Lai used before. A secret technique specially used to find people. After a while, the sound of the incantation became high-pitched and intense, shaking the sky and the earth, like thunder rolling, or a dragon singing to the heavens. A bit of bright red bloomed from the ground, and then, a blood coral-like thing grew out of the ground, and it didn't stop until it grew to a height of 1 foot. Zhu Qing collected the spell, stretched out her hand and sucked up the blood coral, glanced at the direction of the floating light on the blood coral, pointed to a place and said, "Over there." Yang Kai nodded, flew into the air, and flew towards that side together with Zhu Qing. After half a cup of tea, the two came to a cliff. From a distance, this cliff looks like an eagle entrenched, and where the cliff is, it is the eagle's beak. This is the eagle beak cliff mentioned by the human emperor before. When the two arrived, they found that there were corpses of demons here, blood and broken limbs all over the ground, and judging from the traces left on the scene, although the battle it was fierce, but the maintenance time was very short, because these demons seemed to be killed before they exerted much force. This only shows one thing, that the enemies encountered by these demons are very strong, strong enough to crush them at will. Yang Kai looked at Zhu Qing. Zhu Qing nodded lightly and said, "There is a breath of dragon clan, it is Zhu Lai." "Can you tell where they went?" Yang Kai asked. Zhu Qing took a closer look at the blood coral, pointed to the left and said, "This way." Another half an hour later, Yang Kai, who was speeding, suddenly let out a sigh and looked up into the distance, obviously finding something. Zhu Qing also noticed something, and looked forward with enough luck. The aura of heaven and earth over there was shaking, and there were vague sounds of fighting, as if someone had a conflict. The two looked at each other and immediately speeded up. After a while, the scene ahead came into view. A group of demon army, hundreds in number, gathered around a certain place, and the gathered demonic energy shot straight into the sky, and there were two figures in the place surrounded by them. Zhu Lai and Li Jiao, who got separated. I don't know if the two of them were together all the time, or if they reunited later. The situation of the two of them is not optimistic at the moment. Although they are the only strong men in the world, there seem to be several demon kings among the demons gathered around, relying on the advantage of numbers to constantly deal with them and consume their strength. Dozens of demons have died on the surrounding ground, obviously all died at the hands of Zhu Lai and Li Jiao. Among the hundreds of demon clans, each clan has its own unique talent and supernatural powers. Shadow demons are good at escaping, succubi are good at bewitching, powerful and magical, and blood demons are sinister and secretive. If you don't know the characteristics of these demons, it is easy to suffer. If it were an ordinary emperor's 3-layer mirror to come here, even if there were two people, they would have already lost. It was also thanks to Zhu Lai being a dragon clan that he was able to stand firm under such a heavy siege, but he was him, and Li Jiao was Li Jiao. Zhu Lai obviously didn't pay much attention to Li Jiao's life and death. When Yang Kai and Zhu Qing arrived, Li Jiao's state was obviously not quite right. His emotions were extremely high, and there was a trace of black energy on his body, which seemed to be eroded by the devil energy. Moreover, his eyes were a little red, his movements were a little stiff when he shot, and his whole body was running intermittently. Among the demon army, a charming succubus is casting a spell on him. The invisible voice of charm broke through Li Jiao's mental defense without a trace, and the whispering voice echoed in his mind, wanting to destroy his original heart, making him a demon slave. This is the most common method used by succubi. Compared with other demons, the succubus family is generally delicate and weak, but their spiritual power is extremely powerful, and they are best at this sneaky trick. Several demon commanders bravely launched an attack on Zhu Lai, who was pointed out by Zhu Lai several times, and his body exploded, and the sky was full of blood and water like rain. At this moment, the overwhelming blood suddenly stopped, turning into blood snakes like blood snakes, shaking their heads and biting at Zhu Lai. Zhu Lai snorted coldly, spewed out a scorching dragon's breath, and incinerated the countless blood snakes. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, a blood snake rushed towards his face in the dragon's breath. Zhu Lai didn't realize what it was, how to break through. This blood snake looks no different from other blood snakes at first glance, but after careful identification, it is known that it is powerful and unique. At this time, it was too late to think about defense. Zhu Lai could only urge Long Yuan, ready to take the blow head-on. Jia's strange laughter suddenly sounded from the blood snake, full of complacency, as if some plot had succeeded. Zhu Lai frowned, feeling bad instinctively. It didn't seem wise for him to choose to resist the blow. Seeing that the blood snake was about to hit Zhu Lai, at this moment, a black attack like a moon blade suddenly cut down from the air, brushed past Zhu Lai's head, and cut the blood snake in two. The blood snake turned into ashes as if it had been burned, and at the same time, there was an extremely shrill scream not far away. Agorphine suddenly hugged his head and half kneeled on the ground, with a hideous expression and excruciating pain. "Who is it?" Zhu Lai shouted, and when he looked up, he saw only a familiar figure appearing in the sky. Yang Kai grinned and greeted him with enthusiasm. "Hello, brother-in-law." Zhu Lai frowned, puzzled. What? He didn't hear clearly what Yang Kai called him just now. As soon as the words fell, Li Jiao, who had been standing behind him to defend against the enemy, suddenly turned around and slapped him without warning. The Emperor Yuan surged in his palm, and the cultivation base of the Emperor's three-layer mirror was at this moment break out. Li Jiao's eyes lost focus, which was obviously not an act of his own accord, but even Zhu Lai couldn't ignore the power of this palm. A flash of red light flashed, and Zhu Qing appeared between Zhu Lai and Li Jiao strangely. She swung her pink fist and hit Li Jiao's chest first. The sound of bones breaking came, and Li Jiao let out a scream, and his absent-minded eyes turned again, obviously a little at a loss for his own situation, and the next moment he felt a piercing pain coming from his chest. A huge force oppressed his heart, almost it stopped his heartbeat. A burst of energy exploded from his back, blasted his clothes, and flew out on his back, spitting out a mouthful of blood in midair. Zhu Lai turned his head and saw Zhu Qing. He was overjoyed at first, then his expression became cold. "Are you still alive? Is that how you talk when you see your sister?" Zhu Qing glared at him. "HMPH. Zhu Lai snorted coldly, as if he wanted to say something, but suddenly widened his eyes, looked at Zhu Qing in disbelief, and exclaimed, You. What about me?" Zhu Qing pursed her lips, her cheeks flushed. Guessing why Zhu Lai was so surprised, she interrupted him, "I'll talk about anything later." To be continued. Chapter 2972 Aa Wang's outburst. The arrival of Yang Kai and Zhu Qing surprised many demons, especially the blood demon and succubus who shot secretly made them even more frightened. They are all demon king level existences. There was no trace of the two demon king's shots, but they were cracked one by the visitor, and even one of them was injured, which is simply unbelievable. Just when they lost their minds, a barking sound of a dog suddenly came to their ears, and then a small, bubbling, earthy black dog came out slantingly, galloping like wheels on four short legs, excitedly towards a demon. It will rush away, as if seeing a dancing and enchanting bitch in heat. It looks extremely funny. The demon general should be from Limo, tall and burly, holding a huge axe in his hand. The blade of the axe is bright and sharp, exuding a strong black energy. Obviously it is a magic weapon. Seeing the little black dog rushing towards him, the demon general immediately turned hard, shook his head, raised the huge axe in his hand and threw it at the little black dog. His movements were very casual, because he could feel that the little black dog was not strong, and he could easily kill such a little beast. The attention of other demons was also attracted by Yang Kai and Zhu Qing at this moment, except for a few demons who glanced at the little black dog. No one paid too much attention to it. The giant axe struck down, and the little black dog nimbly avoided it. The vigor was a bit outrageous, and the demon general missed it. He was slightly stunned, and a little bit annoyed. Before he could use any tricks, the little black dog suddenly opened his mouth and bit him. The not-so-big head suddenly swelled, and suddenly turned into the size of a door panel, and took the demon general into his mouth in one gulp. Everyone was shocked. Many demons turned their heads and looked at the little black dog in horror, their eyeballs almost popping out. Brother Zhu Qing was also obviously taken aback. They didn't expect this humble little thing to have such power, swallowing a demon general in one bite. Although the demon general is not too strong, it is still equivalent to a virtual king. Demon generals from the Power Demon clan would not be opponents in the general Dao Source realm. Especially Zhu Qing, although she found that the little black dog was a bit strange when she got along with it these days, she never expected it to have such supernatural powers. Only Yang Kai remained calm, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. According to Gong Jia's words, the little black dog has the blood of the demon beast returning to the ruins. This trace of blood is hidden very deeply, but it was activated by Gong Jia's demon's secret technique in the Qingyang temple. Fu Mokai, Gong Jia was able to deal with the 10 emperors for a long time by virtue of his supernatural powers. It can even swallow a 3-layer mirror of Emperor Zun like Feng Ming, let alone a mere magic general. It's just that the little black dog's performance has not been stable these days. Except for swallowing a Liao Guanxi, I have never seen it display this magical power of swallowing again. A few days ago, it fought with Fu Yu in the palace for so long, I don't see it swallowing the talisman jade. At this time, it was as if he had been injected with chicken blood. Yang Kai probably has something to do with these demons. After all, Guishu is a demonic beast. The breath of the demons makes the little black dog very happy. These demons may be delicious food for it. While Yang Kai was contemplating, the demon general who was sucked into the mouth by the little black dog struggled vigorously. Visible to the naked eye, the big mouth of the little black dog bulged from time to time, its huge mouth was completely disproportionate to its short body, was staggered by the power of the demon general. Suddenly, it raised its head and made a swallowing motion. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, a small bag bulged in its throat, then rolled down to its abdomen and disappeared. The door-sized mouth also returned to its original shape at the same time, but the abdomen did not change at all. No one knew where a living demon general was swallowed by it, and even the demon general's big axe was missing. Gone. There was a sound of gasping, and the demons were terrified. However, the little black dog licked his mouth, with a look of unsatisfactory expression on his face, and a pair of shining eyes looked towards the place where the demons gathered. Every demon it saw, no matter how strong or weak they were, goosebumps all over his body couldn't help it, as if he had encountered some natural enemy, and his heart trembled. There was no need to instigate. The moment the crisis engulfed, many demons cast their secret techniques one after another, and the black energy turned into attacks and hit the little black dog overwhelmingly. Yang Kai's expression moved, and he had the heart to observe one or two, so he didn't try to stop him. The little black dog whined, not because of fear, but because of excitement, jumped 3 feet high, and opened his mouth again. This time the mouth opened even wider than before, and the gaping mouth seemed to lead to an unknown world, and there was a strong suction force. The attack blasted it was devoured without a single drop, and it had no effect at all. The little black dog became more and more brave, and rushed forward against the attacks of many demons. Its mouth was split open enough to be the size of a house. Down. The space at the joint was broken, and a large piece of the void was missing. The dozen or so demons in this area disappeared in an instant, and the rest of them fled desperately, quickly opening the distance between them and the little black dog. Gudong. The little black dog swallowed again, still not satisfied, and turned his gaze to the other demons. The beast of extermination returned to the ruins. A low shout sounded, and one of the demons, who was completely black and seemed to be wrapped in smoke, shouted in horror. He recognized the origin of the little black dog, and his voice was full of fear. This demon is a demon king level existence, and his aura is not weak, which is almost equivalent to a second-level emperor. Coupled with his shadow demon background, he can easily assassinate even a third-level mirror of emperor by surprise. He is the strongest among this group of demons, and he should also be the leader of this group of demons. But it was such a strong man. After recognizing the origin of the little black dog, he screamed in surprise, his body turned into a puff of smoke, exploded into 9 paths, and fled in all directions. Guishu is well known in the demon realm, and it is the beast of destroying territory. Although it was born in the demon realm, it can almost be said to be the enemy of the demon realm. It exists to devour, and the demon energy and demon race are its favorite food. It is rumored that in the real demon realm, there once was a Guishu that caused disasters everywhere, and even the devil saints could not match it. In the era when there was no great demon god, that Guishu was simply the overlord of the demon realm, the one that was swallowed by it. There are countless demons, and countless demon towns destroyed by it are also countless. Returning to the ruins represents death, and there are ruins wherever you go, so it has the name returning to the ruins. In the end, there was a powerful demon saint who led all the demons to fight Guishu. The battle lasted for decades, and the demons suffered heavy casualties. The population dropped by more than half. 2/3 of the entire demon domain. The demon clan finally won the victory and killed the Guishu, and the demon sage who was the leader broke through the limit of his strength, was promoted to the great demon god, and became the master of the entire demon realm. The war has made the living environment of the entire demon realm extremely harsh, and many powerful people in the demon realm have to expand their territories to find a larger world that is more suitable for survival. Every demon race is familiar with this period of history, even the demon race in the Wheel World. So after seeing the devouring power displayed by the little black dog, the Demon King immediately thought of the prestige of the Beast of Extermination domain. Although it is impossible to determine whether this is Guishu or not, the sense of crisis at the front line of life and death cannot be faked. Once it is swallowed by Guishu, there is basically no way out. He was terrified, and quickly used his life-saving supernatural powers to escape. Only one of the 9 smokes hides his real body, and the other 8 just divert his attention. In front of such supernatural powers, even enemies who are stronger than him can't stop him. Shadow Demon is good at escaping, this is the best portrayal. But this time, the Demon King who was born as a Shadow Demon miscalculated. Before the scattered smoke ran 100 feet away, he suddenly hit an invisible barrier, 8 of which collapsed, and the other one after retracting it, the Shadow Demon's figure reappeared, his face was ashen, and he looked up at the human race in the sky. Yang Kai stared at him with a smile. The power of the space law around him was ups and downs, with him as the center, the space within a radius of thousands of feet turned into a quagmire, suddenly became extremely sticky, and the edges were even more solid and steel, turning into a layer of cages. All the demons were short, as if they were pressed against their chests by an invisible mountain, and their breathing was difficult. Zhu Qing and Zhu Lai were also slightly uncomfortable, but Yang Kai didn't deliberately target them, and the strength of the 2 dragon clans was already impressive, so they were much better than those demon clans. Li Jiao groaned and groaned, as if he had regained his sanity, but Zhu Qing slapped him on the chest, causing severe injuries, and now he could only lie on the ground, urging Emperor Yuan to heal his wounds while resisting the erosion of demonic energy. Ah Wang, if you don't come at this time, when will you be? Yang Kai said lightly. The little black dog jumped up immediately, and rushed towards the blood demon who had just used a secret technique to attack Zhu Lai. It obviously felt that the taste of this demon was more delicious than other demons. The Gorefiend failed to attack Zhu Lai before, but was cut off by Yang Kai's moon blade, hurting his consciousness, and his strength plummeted. Seeing the little black dog rushing towards him, his face changed drastically, and he turned into a ball of blood light, without retreating but advancing towards the little black dog. He had heard the name of Guishu like thunder, but even if the little black dog in front of him was Guishu, he was just a young beast of Guishu, and his generation of demon kings naturally had the confidence to fight against it. The bloody light spread in midair, becoming bigger than the house, like a big bloody net, trying to envelop the little black dog. The little black dog tilted his head and looked at it, looking very puzzled, obviously wondering how this guy could become bigger than his own mouth. It struggled to open its mouth, but it couldn't be bigger than the blood net anyway, and suddenly got a little annoyed, and took a sharp breath. An incomparably powerful devouring force came, and screams came from the blood net, as if a pancake was sucked and folded, and slowly pulled towards the little black dog's huge mouth. To be continued. Chapter 2973 Zhu Lai's Confusion. The thick blood light was sucked into the giant mouth, and the blood demon showed its original shape in a panic, but it was more convenient for the little black dog to swallow. The big mouth closed suddenly, and bit the blood demon's waist, letting him no matter how you resist, you can't break free. A no pop-up window. The Gorefiend turned pale in horror and shouted for help, but how could any demon dare to save him? The little black dog's aura was indeed not strong, but that unique aura made them feel a chill in their bones, and the shadow demon's cry of returning to the ruins just now made them even more frightened. At this moment, they just wanted to stay as far away from this little thing as possible. The blood demon was devoured bit by bit, and he couldn't use his supernatural powers at all, like an ordinary demon who had never practiced before, and couldn't even activate the demon energy in his body. Looking around, this scene is very similar to the scene of a giant python devouring its prey. Snakes and pythons can swallow prey much larger than themselves, so why not the little black dog? The bright red flames bloomed, and scorching power erupted, but it was Zhu Qing and sister who made the move. Both of them are red dragons, and they have refined the original power of the fire system. The temperature of the surrounding space suddenly increased as soon as you made a move, and the world seemed to turn into a melting pot, trying to melt all the demons. The breath of the dragon breathed out, the spinning fireballs flew in, and the fiery knives slashed across the sky. All the demons were beaten on their backs in an instant, and the demons fell like straws. Although the number of these demons is large, and most of their supernatural powers are secretive and difficult to defend, even if Yang Kai and Zhu Qing don't come, relying on Zhu Lai's strength will not suffer any disadvantages. An 8th Order Red Dragon, surpassing the existence of the 3-layer mirror of Emperor Zun, is enough to kill this demon team. Just a face-to-face meeting, more than half of the hundreds of demons were killed or injured, and none of those who were swept by the scorching flames survived, and all of them died. The succubus screamed, the shadow demon changed color, and the sand demon tried to escape in vain, but the surrounding space was blocked, and the magical power of burrowing could not be used at all, and it was ejected just after entering the ground. Zhu Qing rushed forward with a stride, and her pink fist hit the exposed succubus. The violent force exploded, directly causing her to explode into a cloud of blood mist, leaving no bones left. She has long been upset at seeing this succubus, she glanced at it secretly, and she didn't know who she was throwing it at, but that one still watched it with relish. The sand demon couldn't escape, and just stood still, when Zhu Lai slashed with a flame knife in the air, splitting him in half. The shadow demon was left alone, turned his head and looked around. The whole army of hundreds of people was killed in such a muddle-headed manner, and almost the whole army was wiped out, leaving only him as a single seedling. His whole body became cold, his hands and feet were cold. The 2 dragons have such power without even showing their bodies. If they show their bodies, they will be able to sweep them 10 times more. Zhu Lai rushed towards the shadow demon. The shadow demon wanted to use the old tricks to use his life-saving supernatural powers, but was rushed by Long Wei, and his whole body was dizzy. How could he perform it? Zhu Lai punched him, smashing his head, and red and white things splashed everywhere. It was horrible. At this time, the little black dog just swallowed the blood demon into his stomach, and there was a gurgling sound from his throat. He was a little dissatisfied, but he turned his head and looked. There were no living demons, and hundreds of demons were all dead. It's clean. It snorted and ignored the corpses, just looked up at Yang Kai. Yang Kai has not shot, except for creating a space cage. He has not killed any demons, because he knows that there is no need for him to shoot. Falling beside Li Jiao, he looked down at him. Li Jiao just opened his eyes, and when he saw Yang Kai, he immediately showed a smile that was worse than crying. Palace Master Yang, help me. Yang Kai raised his brows. Brother Li, what do you mean by saying this? I see that Brother Li is fierce and full of energy. There is no need for me to save lives. Li Jiao said urgently. Palace Master Yang, you can't open your eyes and talk nonsense, Li. Li has been corroded by the devil energy, can't you see it? He and Zhu Lai fell into this wheel-running world, but they were not as lucky as Yang Kai, and no one led them to the human emperor city, but stayed in the outside world. When the law of heaven and earth changed, the devilish energy of heaven and earth was filled. Even Li Jiao, as the emperor's 3-layer mirror, couldn't resist it, and was finally invaded by the devilish energy. That trace of demonic energy is extremely difficult to entangle, like tarsal maggots, which cannot be exorcised no matter what. If not, with his cultivation level, it would be impossible for him to be controlled by a succubus just now. Now it is a trivial matter to be injured by Zhu Qing, that is, a few broken bones and a few mouthfuls of blood are all it takes. It will take a while for him to recover. Being corroded by the demonic energy is fatal, and it may make him go crazy. Seeing Yang Kai at this moment is like meeting a life-saving straw. I can see it, but in your situation, I can't do anything about it. Yang Kai rubbed his chin and said. When Li Jiao heard this, he almost cried. Master Yang, you can't just ignore death. Li also came here because of you. If it wasn't for Palace Master Yang's invitation, how could Li be here? Wouldn't it be uncomfortable for Li Longgong to be a power and enjoy the blessing, and now that he has fallen into this field, speaking of it, Palace Master Yang also has to bear certain responsibilities. He quietly looked at Yang Kai's face as he spoke, lest he would offend him. Yang Kai was really annoyed, and said with a stern face, you can eat indiscriminately, but you can't talk indiscriminately. The reason why you came with me is because you have negotiated the conditions in advance. It is not without gain, let alone it is not me. What caused you to be eroded by the demonic energy is your own lack of strength and lack of determination, so what responsibility should I take? Li Jiao said with a mournful face. Palace Master Yang, do you just have the heart to watch Li being corroded by the demon energy, losing his sanity and becoming a monster? Hey, why can't I bear it? Yang Kai wondered. Don't worry, if you really become a monster, this young master will definitely help you out and give you a good time. Li Jiao scolded his mother in his heart. His guts were green with regret. If he had known this earlier, he would never have gone to that ghostly place with Yongkai, but now it has become like this, and he doesn't know where the future lies. At a loss. Okay. Yongkai suddenly chuckled, patted his shoulder and pulled him up. He changed his face so quickly that Li Jiao was not used to it. He looked at him blankly and said, Master Yang, what do you mean? Yongkai Dao, it's just being eroded by the devil's energy. I'm afraid I would have been reduced to a monster if I were someone else. Fortunately, Brother Li, you have a high level of cultivation. Although you are eroded, it is not impossible to treat. Li Jiao's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he said hastily, Li knows that Palace Master Yang will not refuse to save him, so please teach me the way to save him. The way to rescue is far away in the sky. Yongkai chuckled. Li Jiao didn't understand. Yongkai pouted not far away, and whispered, go to Zhu Lai and ask him to give you some dragon blood. Dragon blood has divine nature, which is enough for you to get rid of evil spirits. Li Jiao was startled, his face turned pale, and he quickly waved his hands and said, Master Yang, don't make such jokes, dragon blood is so easy to get, if I really let Zhu Lai know that I have this idea, I'm afraid I'll see you soon. Slap me to death, Li is just a small dragon, how dare you catch his attention? That's why I want to call his attention. With your background, if you can drink a mouthful of dragon blood, tisk tisk. Gudong. Li Jiao couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Speaking of which, he is still a descendant of the dragon, although he is severely suppressed by the dragon blood, but if he can really drink a mouthful of dragon blood, it will also be of great help to his strength, and it will definitely improve his bloodline to a higher level. Yongkai, the words sounded unbelievable at first, but they reverberated in his ears like magic, making him want to move. His eyes shone with excitement, and the devilish energy in his body seemed to become stronger. Yongkai saw it in his eyes and didn't point it out, just smiled and turned his head to look aside. The two sisters, Zhu Qing, did not know what to do. One seemed to have made some huge mistake, with erratic eyes, and did not dare to look directly at each other, while the other was full of shock, and kept examining looking at his sister, as if to get to know her again. Zhu Qing's face flushed slightly, and her eyes became more erratic. You. After a while, Zhu Lai finally spoke, how did you get promoted to the 9th order bloodline? From the moment we met, Zhu Lai realized that something was wrong. Zhu Qing's blood seems to be much purer than his. You must know that this was not the case when she left Long Island last time. Both siblings are at the 8th level. On the one hand, it is affected by the inheritance of parents, on the other hand, it is also due to one's own efforts and the support of Longdao, all three are indispensable. The two brothers and sisters are considered to be one of the few powerhouses on Long Island, the 8th rank is already considered extremely powerful, and the Great Elder is only at the 10th rank. The Great Elder once asserted that the siblings are likely to stay at the 8th level in this life, and there is only a very weak hope of breaking through to the 9th level. The Great Elder has a long life and a vicious vision. Generally, he will say nothing. What a big change. The fact is indeed true. Since the siblings have been promoted to the 8th rank, it has become more and more difficult to improve their blood over the years. No matter how many dragon blood flowers they eat, no matter how long they retreat in the dragon palace, there is no obvious effect. He never thought that he suddenly saw his sister become a 9th order giant dragon. This is simply unbelievable. Zhu Lai believes that he is not mistaken, the dragons are extremely sensitive to each other's bloodlines, even if Zhu Qing did not reveal her real body, the aura of the 9th level cannot be faked. Zhu Lai felt like a cat scratching his head, he was jealous and envious of his sister's promotion, and wanted to know the secret of Zhu Qing's promotion. Zhu Qing didn't reply, but her expression became even more twitchy, and Zhu Lai asked again. Only then did Zhu Qing softly say, when the opportunity comes. Impossible. Zhu Lai vetoed it straight away, feeling that Zhu Qing was too petty to keep this secret, and her curiosity grew stronger. Qinger, are you at the 9th rank? Yongkai walked over, a little surprised. To be continued. I 1/4 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 I 1/4